Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here. A quick update on the situation here in the 2-year anniversary TGS Rainbow Six tourney. We had a forfeit, of course, on the third map of our winner bracket final. That meant we were advancing directly into the grand final. We've got that all prepared for you now. Of course, my name is Sticula. Joining me here as my partner in crime will be Chief for one more TGS Best of 3.
Well, we saw VALORS, I guess, make that crazy run in the, normal grand finals, the upper bracket grand finals, as they're able to technically sweep their opponents because of that unfortunate scenario. But things happen in life, and OVERTURE will be making their way out of that lower bracket into this best of 3. Now, you've seen a lot about OVERTURE. We saw how they were playing. And honestly, they look like a strong team. We saw them play yesterday as well, even with their full roster now fully intact, as we talked about earlier, Jimmy Buckets being a substitute. But OVERTURE, it seems like the theme today is old visionary players playing against themselves, playing against their old teammates in this tournament, because Hawks was on Visionary at that time, playing it with Badger, I guess, a couple months ago, 6 months ago or so.
Yeah, I don't think I've had the pleasure of casting Hawks before, but I definitely have heard about Sinnoh in-game and on Twitter. I'm pretty sure I follow him, but we'll have to double-check that after the fact.
The important thing in life.
Of course, the important thing in life. But it seems like both of these two teams are fairly well evenly matched so far. It's been a fairly smooth ride, you could say, for VALORS, but there was a little bit of kind of a tumultuous period on Oregon where it looked like they weren't really prepared to attack. Their droning was quite lackluster, and there were a few errors here or there, so I think that'll play an important role when we go over towards the map veto and get a clearer picture of what exactly we're going to have on the field tonight as far as maps. And we had a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, myself and Chief, and we're glad to let you know that we will have the newest map in the pool, Chalet, and also one of the most least played in Consulate.
That's an entire roster or entire map pool of Cs. Consulate, Chalet, and Clubhouse as a decider. I mean, I'm ecstatic to see exactly this because let's be honest, in a tournament, most teams are gravitating towards the 4 common maps. This could be Oregon, Cafe, Clubhouse, and Villa, maybe a coastline here and there, but very rarely do we see a Consulate and a Chalet make it through. I'm actually glad that VALORS banned Oregon because, as you were mentioning, they looked a little awkward on that map. Too many mistakes were being made. But Consulate, it's a map that teams, again, they don't always have that experience level on, and it's one of the most unique maps in the pool, simply because you can execute without ever stepping foot into the building. Ash is going to be banned. You might be scratching your head, but that's to target Hicks.
Yeah, that is a bit of an odd one there. It's pretty rare to have an Ash ban, especially so on Consulate, where there's a lot more priorities in mind, especially either Jackal or Nomad. I would imagine that's probably the route VALORS are going to go down, but maybe we'll see the Thatcher removed, and that's exactly the case. So things are going to be tough for a roamer's life in Consulate, given that you have Jackal for roam clear and the Nomad to make sure those flanks never go unprotected. Thatcher being removed, I had almost hoped that we might have Thatcher left up here as a caster. It's fun to watch. Thatcher's EMPs remain in play because of the fluidity. That can add to the pacing overall that we see come out from the attackers. Valkyrie will be removed as well. They're fairly stock. Consulate ban, I'm sure you would say, Chief.
If you have Nomad slip through the attacking ban phase, it's imperative that Valkyrie goes. Why? Because if you have defenders with information, good luck ever even touching the map. And that's even more unique. A mute is going to be removed. Now, there's a few reasons behind that. We saw Mute be played a ton upstairs in the CEO bomb site, but that's exactly the thing. CEO isn't played anymore in competitive. The reason why CEO was so strong at a particular time was because Mute Mozzie made it impossible for teams to ever step foot in the map. That's actually one of the reasons why Console became so attacker-sided, because attacking rosters realize, hey, we can have to execute in an atypical manner. We can just start to repel on windows and shoot the defenders as they move throughout the building. That's much easier. Thank you for making a brand new meta for that. Again, it's always about adapting, creating new strategies on the fly, and a new strategy completely changed a bomb site forever, making it impossible to play. Introducing the, I guess, now tertiary bomb site, the former quaternary bomb site Split, which is across 2 different floors using the stairwells and hatches as vehicles to move back up and down.
We do have the pulse left up on the board, though, so that could pretty much benefit some of those split site holds from Overture if they elect to bring the pulse, as we commonly see. Thank you for Beamed and Chaff dropping us some love. Of course, we love TGS as well, all the players, for allowing this event to go forward and providing us a fun environment to cast over. This is quite something of an extension, although, Chief. It's a basement defense, and Overture have elected to hold all the way up to the top floor. If you were not paying attention, you, I think, could mistake this for a CEO defense, with the way that we've got reinforcements, shotgun holes, and a deployable shield all sent into pro to make sure holding down that room as easy as possible. And that's going to be the main counterpoint for VALORS. How are they going to shut this down, and what success will they have in doing so?
See, here's a curious thing. With this grandiose roam being made by Overture, wouldn't you want a mute in play? Because you can just mute off the wall where Mitch is currently playing, so that way no hard breach will force him away from Projector. And if you want to deny a drone economy, you can still do that with a different ban. All you need to do is have Mozzie taken off the board. I'm still a little bit on the fence by that mute ban, but I think it's something we just have to see play out throughout this series. Now that solo wall over by admin is going to get ripped up. It's a good step for VALORS. Why? Because it allows them to start to take more gunfights into Projector, and the rotation for that one player is going to be the mute of Mitch upstairs. It's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Definitely feel the urgency here from Overture and the fact that they want to hold this down at all costs. Minute and 50. Long desk control beginning to be seized. The Sixer will move through, and not a whole lot coming from the bottom of the split stairwell. Badger taking quite a bit of health off, and he'll collect Vim in the trade, making sure that he does not get away with any more time off the clock or any more map control. Mitchard has actually rotated down. They've given up control of the top floor here. 1:30. That's 90 seconds to procure the next stage in this execute for VALORS to see what they might want to work with. Air jab launched down onto S1. Sinnoh's just ready to try to round the corner, but drone will come on through, and Sinnoh's getting chased downwards. The Iano will hold firm. Now beginning to apply just a little bit more pressure as the Melusi is forced away back to the walls of the site. And here's where that extra on-site utility might have been a little bit more valuable. You don't have that shield anywhere to try to provide cover, for example, at Security Hall or Pipes. You're not going to be able to really hold this one off, and Fender taking a large portion of damage. Now finally Beam does get traded out as Sinnoh is making an excellent display of how to hold down inside security. Fender goes aggro, and that's such a huge kill. Now you've denied a big part of that pressure coming in from Locker's side, but in the meanwhile, 2 Overture Gaming defenders downed. And another one there to provide coverage. David, it's very likely he'll be successful in getting the plant down as Sinnoh tries to move forward. He does not see the thermite running backwards through the breach, and VALORS are going to pick up round number 1.
It was a different hold, to say the least, for Overture. They put a large emphasis upstairs in Projector. It forced VALORS to execute on that top floor, clearing out the roam. However, the problem with Overture Gaming was the fact that they never really let those defenders who are roaming upstairs have safe harbors back to the bomb site. Immediately, VALORS realized that they could just post somebody up on those yellow stairs. That's one of the cutoffs. You put somebody else underneath that circle hatch, and all of a sudden, Overture Gaming won't be able to return to the bomb site. VALORS was able to just do a traditional execute through admin, applying so many pressure, forcing Overture to, again, start to make that rotation where they started to lose bodies. A unique hold, and at the end, it just cost too much manpower for Overture, allowed VALORS to finally set up on that bomb site with that 360 crossfire, mainly from that west, also from yellow, and coming in from behind from the east. At that point, Overture forced to take gunfights, and they didn't win any of them. But hey, at least they're making new strategies, and that's going to be something to keep VALORS on their toes as we start to enter into split.
The Oryx is definitely one that piques my intrigue here. You see, sometimes Oryx played for this site because of the ability to rotate. That's really Oryx's strong point, and The fact that he can jump up through the hatches, there is a huge range of motion that you can get. If you jump up into the bathroom hatch, maybe you would set up a rotate from bathroom to piano. Then you can jump up the hatch from piano into CEO, and that's such a huge rotate. Because of the fact that Consulate only has 3 main stairwells, those can be isolated and locked off with good use of the air jabs, which I remind you have been left up on the board. Of course, Chinji's Nomad was not vetoed out in the ban phase, so the rotates should be covered, and that's really going to place some more emphasis on how Vim is going to hold this and what he can accomplish with the roam. A lot of times when you're talking about the split side, it's the efficiency and the time waste that are kind of battling against each other, how quickly the attackers are able to dominate the roam and prepare for the execute onto the site, and what successes the defense have in slowing that down, maybe how many picks they can get, what utility they waste, and the manpower is ultimately what's most valuable on this attack, because you cannot really attack for split in a 4-on-5, because then it's a 3-on-5. If somebody's trying to plant, there's a high likelihood that they might get taken out through the vertical by a nitro cell while trying to get that case down. We had a bit of a ping in the meanwhile. Mitchard's position holding in the back left corner of CEO is known, but VALORS are having a tiny bit of a struggle really getting a firm grip on the Aronings. He's actually allowed to rotate back. Badger tried to jump in from CEO, but it was a bad play, and either a lack of intel or maybe a missed call is going to make sure that the sledge jumps in and really doesn't get a lot more progress than that. And there's that man advantage that I talked about.
Admin is in control of VALORS, and that's all they have. Just one small room. They're going to have to start to deal with these gunfights, and an incredible headshot through the wall for Hixer, but now he only has 2 of his teammates left. David, the hard breach, is now stuck with Hixer to try to execute onto this bomb site. They're on the 3rd floor. They're going to start to remodel that ceiling, baiting with one of those soft place breaching charges, but it's not going to be enough. Why? Because Pulse is in play, relaying so much information. Pulse on the prone angle, able to collect onto 2 as Findry actually will find that first one. Overture able to hold their fortress down off perfect team play on that 3rd floor.
Got to have a little bit of celebration there for that moment, a real sign of Overture's team play. The Pulse, not the best gun to have, shoots rather slowly, and when it's a pre-fire battle and whoever can get that first shot on target around the corner, the fact that the Maestro was there at back red to provide the cover, I think ultimately is what guaranteed that round not to forget about. The excellent hold that Overture made on the top floor, a great showing of how to slow down the attackers. And I have to wonder there, Chief, maybe if Badger was, just repelled out on the window and holding the flanks back, if VALORS might have had a better take on that top floor, because with CEO window pressure, you can't really play in CEO. It locks off a big portion of the playable areas inside of Island, and that gives a lot easier of a time for VALORS in there, full clear from the actual boots on the ground coming admin.
Or you can also just, have that soft pressure and then put somebody over by the upstairs balcony and projector and actually do a more direct execute, trying to pinch that Overture player that's roaming in admin, because they have no way of leaving that position unless they open up that hatch, which they could have done. But even if that hatch is opened up, it's in the middle of the room. It's going to be quite a rotation to even get back to that one position, that's the opening of the room. Why? Because of everyone who's upside down repelled. Again, I think VALORS just needs to put more emphasis on clearing through admin. Admin is going to be a part of this map that we're going to be talking about throughout this Consulate match, because it's so crucial. It is the focal point for every single roster. It's the main doorway for them. If you have control of admin, there isn't a single bomb site you can't execute on. It's the main highway of this map.
A lot of pressure in admin proper at the moment. Hixer able to come in fairly unfettered. The real slowdown is when you get over towards projector and long desk. That's where Overture have stacked the majority of their manpower, but I like the play that we see of the player coming in from Teller's side. It's going to apply a bit of pressure and make sure that there's no uncertainty surrounding Visa or the electrical hall. Well, we're just kind of all over the place for Overture right now. They had somebody down in the basement. That's the Maestro, perhaps thinking about coming up for a flank from late. David at the main door. A lot of times when you see this lobby side, it's all surrounding the dichotomy between a main door plant and what vertical defense can hold from up above, or maybe in this case, their plant denial with the nitro cells and the evil eyes. But a weird play from Sinnoh trying to come up the Visa stairs. No intel to know that there would be a player there, and so the Melusi is going to be punished for that fact. 90 seconds is going to hit as the execute should be coming relatively soon. Extra taking a bit of damage from that Toxic Babe, though. So now into the util burn, and ADS is going to take out one of his lifelines, but Control It Projector should be enough to allow the plant. There's a Suicide Repel, covered from Hixer at main door, and David nearly half time. There's no denial. Smoke is going to try to swing out, and that'll be the death of Mitchell. The plant down. It's always such a desperate situation on Consulate as all the bodies drop, leaving only Vim, who tries to race into connector, but is killed just as quickly as his fallen teammates, VALORS. Great job on that lobby attack.
VALORS identified the hole. They realized that Circle Desk was unoccupied. The hole's being held from above over by Projector. They couldn't be held comfortably because VALORS was pushing from that suicide balcony, the balcony outside of Projector, applying pressure as well as that upside down rappel. So everybody at Overture was forced to scramble, but they never really knew that their bomb site was compromised until Mitchard went for that swing. And once he realized that the bomb was going down, he tried to call in for additional reinforcements. But since VALORS did such a good job of locking down that post plan, there was nothing Overture can do. And Consulate has this weird meta about it. It's very difficult to enter into the map, but as soon as the attackers have entered the map and when they found themselves in a post plant, good luck ever being a defender winning a post plant, just because the attackers can upside down repel. They can sit outside in the grapes. They can hold incredibly long angles, and when you're going against, an attacker that has an ACOG versus you as a defender with an SMG and a 1x scope, you're just not able to win it. You can be the best player in the world. You're just not going to see the attackers before they see you. Another round lost for Overture, but they're going to be trying another bomb site back downstairs. The basement they'll go. They lost this the last time based on the roam that they had. They weren't really playing together as a team, something that they need to address if they want to continue to hold Projector on this upstairs roam.
A lot of times we talk about Consulate as being an attacker-favored map, but, I don't really like that kind of thinking. We lost because of a number, because of a stat. You kind of have to take responsibility here, and that's been seen in some rounds. Overture played really well when it wasn't Garage or the lobby site, but you can only play split so many times, Chief. You've got to be able to hold other defenses, and for Garage and lobby, that just doesn't seem like it's really in Overture's wheelhouse. The way that they play the roams, it looks kind of uncomfortable, I think I would say. Like, a lot of players are being caught out, and VALORS have a really easy time of stepping into the map, having their entries be droned out, and getting these requisite picks. As you can see, like, the rotates are constantly being covered. We saw Sinnoh die on that opening play. I think he was just someplace inside Visa. And now somebody tries to rotate in from bench hall. You have Mitchard, the smoke caught well out of position. Why is your smoke on a Garage defense roaming lobby without support from his teammates?
He was the one in Projector, and that's the problem with the Overture style of play. Smoke is going to die to weird angles because he's the one holding upstairs in Projector. At some point, he has to return back to his bomb site. Fendry has information. He heard the camera be shot, and a swing for him for Archives. He has to be very careful, though. There's somebody coming down the stairwell, but Vim is able to spring into action and help his teammates stay a little bit more safe. Fendry will be able to return back to the bomb site, but Overture, they're not really out of the woods yet. They still have a man disadvantage, and they have to hold this bomb site. They will have information stemming from those Echo drones, but as soon as that west wall opens up, VALORS are going to have an avenue into the bomb site. It hasn't been cracked open yet because a Cade Claws were just now identified. An aggressive swing for Fendry. He'll dish out some damage, but not enough to actually find the impactful frag. If that kill went in favor of Overture, that would have been the equalization in this round. That actually could have been Overture able to secure the round, at least more or less guaranteeing. Vim's going to hear the wall break behind him. He's in a bad position. He goes for the swing. He takes the gunfight and secures it. Now Diffuser surrendered, and VALORS, they need to start to adjust this. They need to remove Fendry and then execute onto the main breach.
Vim is just constantly in a state of motion, rotating around. We'll have one go to the main breach. That's Hixer, I believe, on the Zoe, but Beam just walks right into Cafeteria, and both Vendry and Vim line up for that ARX 200. Really strong attack there. A great start as the rotations are constantly under watch with a floodlight illuminating every position possible for the defense, and their roams on Consulate have just been atrocious so far. The only site that they've won is Lobby, and that was down to, or not Lobby, excuse me, it was Split. And pretty much how they played that was from the site and kind of holding below. But I don't think you can really skate by on Consulate by winning from anchor sites. You've got to be able to slow down the attack here somewhat, because Valors, if you let them go 5-1, they aren't going to slow down on the defense. I can guarantee you that. We saw some very aggressive plays. Hixer has sort of sensed the moment. He's been kind of an opportunist, been sort of a reactionary. When something goes wrong, or when his team needs him to make a play, you can count on him to step up, and that's been true so far. Really strong team play, I'd say, from Valors here in the grand final.
I just wish Overture was able to use what Vendry and Vim did in the last 30 seconds of the round, where they're just kind of doing like a lethal dance on the bomb site, always able to dodge the guns of Valor until they couldn't. What happens if you created a strategy where you did that upstairs on the 3rd floor, and then you rotate down a hatch, you do it on the 2nd floor, and then you repeat till there is so little time left from the bomb site? Valors gets frustrated. They go for a direct execute, and it's going to be a 5v5 execute with so little time left from the clock. That's a perfect position for the defenders to be in, particularly when you have Echo drones in play. It's all about that information. And again, one of the strengths that an IGL needs to have is to be able to learn lessons and be able to apply it in so many different scenarios. Just because it works for one bit on the basement, that means it can work elsewhere. You can do so many different things. You know, if you wanted to apply it to this admin hold, for example, all you need to do is snipe away some drones, retreat back over a projector, and then replicate those mistakes. But that's not going to take the place. Overtures, they're not going to be able to be seen anywhere near the admin. They're going to allow Valors to push directly on through, but Hixer, no information swing. He'll get gunned down as a process. Beamed on an upside down rappel over by CEO. Claims and dishes out a ton of damage right now. So looking awkward again for Overture. Still on these roams, frag grenades goes out to try to identify the player over in CEO, but Vim was able to rotate down the hatch using that secondary bailiff pistol. So now that he's in the safe position, he can return to his bomb site. Badger down but not out over in projector. He can drop the hatch, go into the circle, and be res back by his teammates. He does have to be careful that Hawks doesn't grab him with that cardiac sensor.
Constantly sensing for that signature, try to find out any intel. Beam tried to do the crouch trick to come in through the yellow barricade, but fortunately did not work. But look at that, Vim is up on the hatch, and quite an unexpected angle. Really good play there by Vim, just trying to cover from up above, and well, the Goyo still trying to hold out here as Gingy will walk through, but the intel I think is just not good enough. The Orcs will drop back down and try to return to play for this site. Things are still sitting at a 3-on-3. Surya Gates block the main entrance, and Badger does not have enough health to try to tank that. He's going to be forced into kind of a one-dimensional push. Here comes Hawks back on that cardiac sensor, constantly obtaining that information, and Vendry is still back on his Echo drone, but Hawks has the cardiac sensor, and he also has the nitro cell, but you can't use both at once, and that could be something of an issue. I think kind of recognizing that will be Vim as he makes a play to come in from the circle desk, plant nearly half-time. David is going to stick for it, and the Echo is not able to deny it. Vendry is off of his drone, and that might have just been the mistake that lost this round. Vendry tries to fight, tries to make up for it, and he'll do so. Gets David up and through the floor, but Hawks is locked, stuck. Bottom spiral, holding for the angle as the sledge goes up above, playing for the vertical, and this air jab's so difficult. Hawks will manage to make his way past it, but not much further. Gingy shuts him down, Vendry in the sight. Nomad constantly firing over the top of his head. Vendry searching for this pick, but the Nomad's just better than him. And Gingy will land the headshot. Valors, 4 attack wins.
VALORS, a perfect execute upstairs, able to apply pressure from every single window repel. Overture unable to ever return back to the bomb site, even when players of the VALORS started to go down but not out. They never really lost faith in their teammates, still able to hold the fort. Even Hixer, the primary death in that round, such a strong fragger. I mean, that just shows how good VALORS is as a team. They know exactly what to do, where to hold, and Overture. They set up that split bomb site perfectly. They had so many different murder holes to have nitrocells fly up sky high and remove David from play altogether, even on an elevated position. They had echo drones in play, but you can have the best setup. You can have all the information in the world, but if you're not using that information, if you're not using the tools that you put in play, it's going to be a hard round for you. And unfortunately, that's a pill that Overture is going to have to swallow into round 6. It's a 4-1 at worst. VALORS is going to end this half at a 4-2, which is a very strong position for an attacking team to be.
Just like to quickly lighten the mood, take a step back and talk for a moment about one of our sponsors making this event possible. And that's got to be Kanto Living. They've been a longtime supporter here of TGS and are a really great place to go look for the final piece for your work from home or gaming setup. You can find everything that you need to create the best workstation, battle station at cantoliving.com. Check out their monitor mounts, speakers, and stands today if you're in the market for that last piece in your setup. But moving on, round number 6 is here, the final step in the first half. If Overture Gaming cannot win this defense, Chief, I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to make it count when they get on the attack.
The one good thing for Overture is this is an odd map, and some teams just aren't capable of it. Why that's good for them is they're going to go to another more odd map. We're going to see the newest edition, Chalet, come through. And unfortunately, Hixer just sends it in. Stops swinging yellow. It didn't work the first time, and it's not going to work the second time. That seems to be just a desperation play from VALORS, even though they're currently leading the series by a large margin. That could kill the thermite charge.
It's going to be close.
Woo! Excellently done. Perfectly timed Cade Claw. And now that hard breach has been removed, at least one of those charges, still one more in the back pocket of David, but it's something that VALORS needs to address. They need to go upstairs in the piano and remove that ceiling to deal with the Cade as well as his Cade Claw.
Yeah, clearing this one is going to be very difficult, and I think the problem here is if you're staring at that for too long, one of 3 things could happen. You could get swung from Black Car, you could get swung from Close Sandwich, which is sort of the bottom area of the yellow stairwell there where the Nomad was standing, and you also could have gotten pushed from the top of the yellow stairs. But that's not really relevant anymore because VALORS, as you can see, have made a full rotation. Things are quickly shifting in this round. It looks like more of an Archives and Locker take is going to be executed, but that's not going to go very uncontested. As you can see, the Jaeger will swing down and collect the pick onto the Nomad, which is going to make things a little bit harder now. The manpower disadvantage. Beam tries to make up for it, but does not get far. That sort of impulse decision, not playing with his teammate, is going to leave a lot of work for David to do, and he's only got the 5.56 to make it happen. Good luck for David in this situation. It seems like Overture Gaming might have just kind of accomplished that goal that I set out for them, to get the second round here on their defense, to shorten the gap, to shorten the lead that VALORS hold to just only 2 rounds, and to make their attack life a little bit easier. But this isn't not completely over for David. There's 30 seconds for opponents. The only way that I see him realistically winning this is if Overture throw, but they don't. They play a crossfire. They wait till he's at the bottom of the stairwell looking down pipes, and he'll get shut down 4-2 first half. Still a lead, but a little bit thinner than VALORS might have liked.
VALORS said, all right, I assume Overture is going to do the same defensive strategy that they've done for the past 2 showings of Basement, where they expand upstairs in a projector, they have a shotgun playing in projector, they have a shield reinforcements, and they just hold the fort that way. So VALORS said, we're just going to try to rush straight in through yellow. We're going to take some vertical play over by piano just so we can remove the Cade Claw. And then at that point, it is going to be a full site execute. However, Overture didn't do any one of those. Instead, Overture realized that the projector hold hadn't worked for them twice, and they created a brand new strategy. VALORS reacted to a strategy that wasn't even being shown by VALORS. And that just comes down to some of those errors that we we're talking about on their first showing of Oregon, where their drone play just wasn't what we wanted. They never got the full piece of the pie. They never even knew what pie that they were eating. They thought it was cherry, but in reality, it was apple.
So I quickly wanted to ask you about this. Maybe it won't be the most relevant now as we hit the side switch, but I think it still can kind of inform the way that we're going to talk about the rest of this game. What's your opinion on that decision to rotate when it was clear that the garage take wasn't going to work, and then we see them try to come in from archives? Yes, it doesn't work, but do you think that sort of style of siege, the mid-late round rotation, could be valuable for, maybe Overture now that they're on the attack to adopt?
I don't see a round 6 being won by VALORS if they don't make that rotation over to the archives drop. That was the only play they had. There's no way that they're going to be successfully able to open up the west breach. They could have maybe tried to push down through the yellow stairs, but they lost 2 of their players in that scenario, so very unlikely that they try to risk a third. You could try to go down the green spiral door, but again, we saw exactly what that happened. Overture had such a strong crossfire, it wouldn't work. So the option you had was going for a swift execute from behind, trying to overwhelm Overture before they realized what happened. But VALORS executed a little bit too slowly, and Overture was actually prepared for that when we saw our Jaeger rolling in that position, just prepared for some fishy business going on.
Hopefully there's less fishy business now that we go on to the second half of the game. VALORS are making a bit of an adaptation from the defense style that we saw Overture have in a lot of their rounds. They're going to bring a Vigil, so really committed to that roam. I would imagine probably going to play a 2-man stack up to the top floor. Maybe it's Gingy and Badger, or Badger and Beamed, who try to hold away from that. The placements of the Banshees are going to inform you a lot about this setup, and it's going to kind of give you a clearer picture of how they're going to play this. When Overture held their projector setup, I think a lot of time they played like a Banshee at top of the Visa stairs. Right before, you come into Pro, you exit the TV box, and you try to go in to counter that shield. There's a Banshee there. You have to rotate Util, and if your Sophia is not very prompt, or maybe if you're running an Ashe, or in this case, it'll be your Iana who would probably be charged in that scenario, but no reinforcements, not even any shotgun holes open up. This is pretty much just going to be more of your rank style of roam, where you're fighting for the battles, trying to waste time, and I think the Vigil probably slots into that well, Chief. If you don't want to actually commit to holding upstairs here, you're not going to have mute jammers, but you got to be able to kind of play positions that are stronger than wide swinging and Coffin, as that's going to cost the life of the Vigil, and it could be the death of Beamed as well, as he tries to creep in, but doesn't really have support from another teammate. The trade situation. The Iana is spotted. She tries to back up. Sinnoh within a fraction of health. The Repel player will be crucial here to providing the trade, but that'll be the death of Iana, or maybe just the down. Lion Scan trapping effectively Beam to launch out the Nitro. It gets the confirm, and now it's really just up to Overture. Shutting down Beam now is crucial, but the time waste this is providing is oh so valuable.
It is a dangerous place to be in. Beamed, again, his life will be forfeit soon. More members of Overture start to lurk in the depths, trying to directly take this gunfight. Lion calls up. It's going to allow Overture to continue to move on forward, and eventually dealing with Beam. T now falls a 2v4. We're barely at the halfway mark in this round. You have 2 support players, one with a Nitro Cell and one with only 1 more round of toxic gas. 10 seconds of time denial. And Overture, sure, they waste a lot of time upstairs and admin, but they still have a 60-second execute window. More than enough time. They can start to swing that sledgehammer of David, removing the ceiling away from VALORS. And actually, David realizes that he's in such a bad position that he can start to, well, go upstairs. I did misspeak. There's not a sledge in play. It's currently a buck by Mitchard. That was David on the smoke roll, taking his way up through Zulu, trying to play aggressive and trying to take gunfights.
Bit of a curious exothermic use there. You might be wondering what that's for, and it'll create a deep sightline to the back angle behind the white van, but Chief, that doesn't really matter here, as David's not playing there. He's kind of forced off of the site, sort of sent into exile by Overture's immense pressure coming through. And now the plant will begin as well. This is going to be a tough one to smoke out, and I think the time for that toxic banister could have been a little bit earlier here. David is out of them as he used them earlier in the round, and now trapped against 4 players, a consulate post-plant, one of the most difficult of all, and David doesn't even have enough time to check behind him as it's Fendry from the bottom at Lockers. And Overture going to start off their attack with a fairly capable round there.
Both of these rosters are electing to go for very aggressive smoke plays. We're seeing smoke be almost used as a roamer, which sounds unique, but again, the job of smoke is to waste time. The job of a roamer is to also waste time. So if you have a gadget that it can waste time without, playing these hyper aggressive positions, it does make sense. It just comes down to that opportunity cost of utility. Is it more important to use smoke as, plant denial, as to stop somebody from walking through a breach, or is it more important to use it to waste time? Again, it just really depends on what the IGL wants in that scenario and what is advantageous for them. And here's something a little bit more unique. We're actually going to be seeing CEO brought out. Overture on their defense, they didn't want to use CEO. But VALORS, they're going to actually be bringing out as their secondary bomb site. And maybe this is where that mute play is going to be so important. The best way of holding this bomb site is by placing a lot of mutes over to the east side of the map, denying the drone economy entrance into admin. Now, the only way you can do that is through a Mozzie, which is not being shown by VALORS, or directly by gunplay.
I was kind of assuming from this game that we've had so far, we would probably go the whole match without seeing CEO be played. For those of you who were here on Clubhouse, you might remember the point that I made about bar stock. Well, CEO is not quite the bar stock scenario where the site is pretty much indefensible for all but the most pocketed of pocket strats. CEO is a bit of a different question, and this is probably the most exemplary of the window repel attack orientations. A lot of times for the whole entire round, you're going to have somebody that sits out of the double windows at CEO and tries to deny you from coming in. A lot of times you might also see something like Sinnoh come up above to the top of the yellow skylight and look down upon David, who's going to hold top yellow and try to slow down Overture. The start of this round is going to be fairly important because you're going to get an idea, a clearer picture of how Overture want to attack. And that looked like a yellow take, but the droning was a bit lackluster. Perhaps Overture were not as most experienced in attempting this clear, and so don't have a proper regimen set out in what needs to be droned and what you might expect to have from VALORS. But a lot of times, good CEO holds are comprised of a vertical extension below to deny the plant if it is to come in CEO.
And I call this kind of the Mira fallacy. If you're never scrimming with Mira, the moment she gets into a live match like she is now, you're just not going to be able to, you're not comfortable bringing her out because you haven't really been using her. The same idea is here in CEO. If you just aren't comfortable executing CEO, if you're not scrimming it, you're just not going to have the strats. Even though this is a legacy bomb site, at one time it was the best bomb site on this map, so some of these OG players might be able to remember how they executed, but there's also a lot of young talent in this lobby who were part of the era where CEO was that primary bomb site, and it forces those experienced players to just communicate what needs to be done that can start to step away from that round. And we're talking about how oppressive these upside down angles are, these window repels. I mean, look what it's done to VALORS. They have the opening duel in their favor, but now they're forced to take these aggressive gunfights, peek these windows where the attackers have the positional advantage against them.
Great play there by Gingy. Shuts down the entrance and moves it into 2-on-2 territory. No Nitro. Gingy does have the impacts, and maybe David, there's a chance that he's still got a yokai. In fact, there it is. Overwatch on the plant as Hawks will begin to back off, but Gingy still got a shield long 90. Hawks will begin the plant. You can see David's playing it cautious. He lets it go all the way down nearly for the plant timer to make sure he gets the most uses out of that yokai. And now Hawks does not have connector repel, and it'll be shut down by that top yellow angle from David. Is VALORS. They managed to pull it out, a win on CEO, and a very capable strategy there.
Look at the team play. In the end, that's what saved VALORS. They started to get a little bit aggressive. They started to challenge too many of the window repels, and they started to lose gunfights. They decided that they wanted to play more passively, and the 2v2, they just used the information as an asset. They had full tabs on the attackers. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they're able to big brother them, stunning away the planter, dealing directly with Khan. And honestly, the one real misplay, though, by Overture Gaming was the window repel in. Whoever threw themselves into toilets upstairs and lost the gunfight to David on the Echo really hurt Overture. That would have opened up the entire yellow front, and that would have allowed Overture to go for plant. Even with Echo drones in play, you can only stun lock so many times. You have about 2 stun locks, and unless you're rotating another Echo drone from the other side of the map, you're not going to be able to deny the plant any longer.
Yeah, that looked like a bit of an experience for Overture. They kind of had to call a strat on the fly, and there were a few elements that were better coordinated than others. They did get into CEO, which is not always something that actually happens for the Thermite's sake, but the coverage from Connector, I don't think it's really what you wanted there, and there was a few things that you could maybe workshop there, but that's a pretty big round for VALORS to win, as they get to kind of step out of the normal rotation. Generally, you're probably going to win maybe your lobby hold, maybe your split hold isn't as strong, but you might still just clinch it out. Garage has been, Garage is a Garage. It's very samey, sort of CCTV and Cash of Consulate. A lot of similarities that you can draw there. The wall almost always gets open, and that kind of has the fallout that you would expect. But VALORS have got now a win, holding on the top floor, and they're only one step away from map point here, Chief. This could be Consulate completely opened up from out of the rip. This is VALOR's pick, of course, so they would have to go next towards Overture Gaming's choice of Chalet, which is sort of unsettled waters, I guess you could say. We don't really know how either of these two teams play in terms of their map pool. I haven't casted Overture Gaming recently, or really in the past very much. And VALORS, I can't say if they can play on Chalet or not.
The thing with Overture right now is they're really relying heavily on these window repels, almost too much. They're trying to force VALORS to swing and make their own plays. But that's the due diligence of the attackers. They already start to fall. Well, that's exactly what we needed Overture to make a play, but unfortunately they did it without any information, swinging straight in. One coming in through yellow, the other one coming in through CEO, and both of them now falling. Overture, these upside down repels, they need, again, start to enter on through. A bad flashbang forces Mitch away, and then he ends up losing his life in another follow-up gunfight. Now, it's all on one. He has the red pings, the Lion Call, and Badger is off the board, but Diffuser outside by yellow. It's a difficult scenario for Overture to be in.
Yeah, this one is so hard. To come in from yellow is already difficult at a base level because of the number of angles that you are required to check. But with Beamed already having one kill, definitely feeling comfortable holding here at the staircase. Sinnoh's allowed to step in. He gets the case and somehow actually dodges out, trying to send a bit of a fire back, and the nade is tossed, but Beams has actually gone to yellow window, and he's gonna find Sinnoh, as VALORS will step on to match point, as I had noted, and this is a brutal road ahead. Overture, their attack just not yet materializing.
It seems like Overture is just a little bit afraid right now. They need just to take map control. And you know what? Their upside down repels over in CEO, over into toilets, and over into connector just aren't working for them. They need to say, all right, I respect that my strategies just aren't the play. Let's do something like VALORS are doing. Let's push in through admin. Let's start to clear admin. Let's clear the entire top floor and then work our way down into press, or work our way down that suicide balcony and start a direct execute. But we never even saw Overture attempt a site execute because they were too timid upstairs in CEO. It's now put themselves in a dire position going into what could be that final round, since we're at match point. And to make things a little bit more awkward for them, They are now executing on a bomb site that they haven't seen. It is a split showing coming out by VALORS. So a 4 bomb site rotation for VALORS. They went back in round 7 to basement. Now here into round 10, it's a split site.
Here we go once more. It's archives and tellers that we'll see ahead of us on your screen. The Vigil being brought once more. From what I've seen so far in VALOR's hold of admin, it's been kind of... It looks uncomfortable, I think. The way that they hold it, they're kind of racing back and forth, and... You know, maybe if you brought somebody else up here as well. I don't know if Beamed on the Mozzie will be that one operator that really makes the difference. He's probably not going to play too many pests upstairs, and well, that could have implications of its own. If drones are allowed to come through freely, yes, Vigil can go invisible from drones, but it's not a complete invisibility, and it runs out eventually. It's not forever. So you're going to get cleared one way or another, especially now that you have a Jackal being brought in the composition as well. Beamed, it seems, will try to play up here. He's got a Nitro in pocket, and a lot of times what you might see here is the Nitro launched out the window, but looks like a bit of a rush. It's going to be a drop down into Tellers. Gingy's caught out on the cardiac sensor. A full steam ahead into the side, and Hixer just barely will win that fight. The pressure coming through. Hixer caught in the reload, killed execution style. Plant coming down from Hawks, and Beamed is the only one who can even try to stop it. Overture Gaming strong arm their way in round 10.
They find the hole, and they obliterate it. They drop the nuke smack dab on top of it. Where on earth was Gingy? Why didn't they have the cardiac sensor up and alive? Where was the information? He was looking in that spot. At some point, you see the red circles of the cardiac sensor start to move towards the hatch. They start to drop, and I don't know what happened.
If you see 3 or more people there, that's when it's time to raise the alarm bells. There's never a need for 3 people at the Visa door, and that almost always is going to tell you a rush. That's like on Villa, where you've got a Pulse playing in dining music box, and he's looking through the pantry wall. Like, there should not be people there, that many people, or that quick, ever.
Well, you know, we are critical of Overture just sitting on window repels, you know, twiddling their thumbs, you know, with their feet kicked back on their desk. They did the exact opposite of that. They flew straight on in. They went from a perfect rush, and honestly, that's exactly what we wanted from them. We wanted them to be somewhat dynamic on their attacks, and they're going to do exactly that. The experimentation going into split for VALORS will not work, and they're going to go back to their tried and true bomb site. The first time that we saw basement was actually the Overture victory. One of the few rounds that we saw them win on attack, so that's why we eventually saw a split be shown. So now Overture, they have to be VALORS have to be thinking, are we confident in our basement defense? Are we going to be able to hold the fort down? And Beamed is currently on his stomach, crawling. The reason is he's concerned that there's a Jackal in play. There isn't any, so the only thing he's doing is just slowing down his roam.
It's pretty rare that you see that in the modern day. And the one thing, there is no Jackal, but another rush! Back-to-back rushes into the site. You cannot hesitate here. You must go full steam ahead. But 2 players shut down off the rip, and now Badger will get a third. This rush, it's completely ripped apart. That half second of hesitation, of slowing down, of stalling out, is going to mean that you lose the surprise factor. Everyone suddenly decides to rotate back, and now with Sinnoh gone, the 3rd kill for the Vigil. Fendry, 11-6, has had a strong consulate, but I don't know if it's 1v3 match point clutch strong. That is a tall order. And the problem here now is, because this was a rush, there isn't anything else set up. Nothing has been cleared, no prep drones, no flank watch, nothing is being monitored, and Badger will seal the deal, completely eliminating the rush. VALORS will win Consulate, their map selection, off the back of an impressive rush. Shut down, shut out, 7-4.
The reason why that rush failed, you mentioned the hesitation. They hesitated because the utility hadn't been met by Overture. If you're going for that rush, I like to see teams go for a smoke grenade first. You smoke off Oreo or pipes, and then you have your Candelas go down range. But you have to be so much on the same page with the thermite charge actually detonating that the smoke grenade is practically flying in midair just as that wall detonates. But since that order of operations wasn't yet met by Overture, they ended up just steamrolling their way on through, making far too many mistakes. But hey, again, we are critical of the mistakes that they made. Their winner repels. To their credit, they addressed the issues. Unfortunately, what they did not solve their problems. They ended up losing Consulate, but it was Valor's map pick, and maybe we're going to see the exact same storyline pan out as we enter into Chalet.
Yeah, and that's going to be a really good one to watch for all of you who are first-time Siege viewers. Maybe this is the only Siege action that you've ever gotten a chance to take a look at. You will want to stick around for map number 2 of the TGS 2-year anniversary open series event featuring Rainbow Six Siege. Chalet, of course, the newest map coming into the competitive map pool. It'll give you a learning experience and a memory that you won't soon forget. But before we go there, map number 2 ahead of the short break, going to it now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the gaming stadium here in the grand finals between VALORS and Overture Gaming. Honestly, Reese, this series is looking phenomenal. Map number 1 would go in favor of VALORS, but we're going to find our way into the French Alps, moving our way into Chalet, a map that a lot of teams yet aren't comfortable with since the newest addition to competitive Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, it just came into the pool, I believe, only about 2.5, maybe 3 months ago, which is relatively short in Siege terms. Some of the maps in the pool have been there from the get-go, and some, just like Consulate, really haven't seen terribly too many changes, and that's one of the main criticisms, reason why people kind of want Consulate to be moved out of the map pool. There's always discussion going back and forth about maybe, X map should come in and replace this one, or, we should go from 7 maps in the pool to 9, or something like that. There's a lot of discussions. Everybody gives their input, but I kind of want to pose a question to you. What is your favorite thing about Chalet? And you can't just say that because it's new and refreshing.
My favorite thing about Chalet is the fact that you can execute on so many different places. Let's say it is a bar defense. Well, you can try to push in through library. It can be very difficult. You have to use the windows and assets very similar to Cons, the map we just played. But you could also go for a solar execute, pushing from the other side of the map, doing a methodical clear. Really, it's up to the IGL and how they want to address the utility of the defense. And I think that's why it's refreshing, because far too many maps, there's only one way of executing. Honestly, I think Villa is the best map in the pool because there's thousands of ways of executing. I mean, we see every single Pro League game that there's some new avenue, some new angle, a linear push, a horizontal push, a grandiose push, whatever it may be. Villa's always evolving, and Chalet being that new map, I mean, anytime you watch a T1 broadcast, it's something different.
So what expectations would you have as far as operator vetoes?
So if we look in professional play, it is a 0 Nomad, always removed off the bat, followed by a Thatcher. Now, 0 sounds crazy if you're newer to Rainbow Six, but if you think about what 0 can do, provide information, destroy utility, and let's say, the attackers are doing a solar execute into bar. That's a top floor clear to execute on a mid-floor bomb site. Well, there's a couple stairwells, and Nomads are going to be great at stopping that rotation, but they all can be shot. So zeros have been played instead, so you don't have to relegate your traditional drone economy to watching those flanks, and you just put one of your 0 cameras, very similar to a Valkyrie camera, elevated in a high position, and you have one of your teammates hold flank by flipping through on their iPhone until they either see that the flank has been caught, meaning somebody's coming up a stairwell, or until you're prepared to go for your execute.
I think I would largely agree with your expectations here, but let's see if they are met. One thing you might want to kind of keep in focus here is the fact that Overture, their attack ban on Consulate was Ash, which was really weird. It was
a Hixer ban. It was targeted for Hixer.
It was a target ban, but I don't really feel like the impact it had of it was, fairly noticeable. I mean, Valor still won. It was a 7-4, which is, it's been longer. I think their average has been like 7 to 2.5. We've seen 7-2s, 7-3s, and 7-4s, if my memory serves me right. So far. Oh, and I guess you could sort of also count the forfeit win, which is that's like a 7-0 essentially. So, but we'll see things stick more towards tradition and kind of normalcy, as it's Habana who's taken out. The Ashe is allowed to hang around this time, and we'll actually have the Valkyrie get taken away. Chalet, it's not the biggest map, I would say, but it's still, there is a lot of rooms. There's a lot of areas where you need intel. For example, if you're playing on, let's say you're holding bar gaming, and a lot of times what bar gaming, a defense there looks like is you're going to extend up above. You touched on this. Sometimes teams, you got to pressure the windows outside of the library, which is just the room right above it. And so you're going to want to have intel there, obviously. So maybe what you'll do is you set a camera in Piano, or maybe out in Solarium, which is the complete opposite side of library from the top floor over. And there's a lot of useful spots for Valkyrie cams to be, and not necessarily like Consulate, where Valk cams a lot of time there's going to be one or two outside the map, hiding in a tree somewhere, because the bounding box of the map is kind of weird. And if you played ranked on this map, you probably had one or two cameras before get broken by the barrier, and that's always frustrating. But generally, interior cameras, always frustrating. And the ban there, I think, also shows the fact that Valors probably don't want to have to step IQ into their comp every time.
I mean, Valkyrie has been a staple ban recently for teams. Information is imperative to rosters. So you remove the defensive information, it's going to slow them down just slightly. And bar being shown as a primary bomb site, we were alluding to that earlier. Most rotations goes bar, master, and then downstairs into the kitchen. Now, if you've at all played this map in ranked, you know that everybody, even high elo games, wants to go to a primary bomb site of basement. It's just simply the comfortable bomb site, because the original iteration of Chalet, the best bomb site was downstairs in the basement. But now it is no longer the case, simply because of all of that wooden floor above you. If you ever go to the basement, as soon as the attackers have droned out the entire map, it's like sitting ducks. If you're downstairs in the basement, the entire ceiling will be removed and you have nowhere to hold.
Yeah, I feel like that's sort of the old habits die hard. You want to play the basement because you got all those memories of it being so defensible, and I think it gives a lot of people kind of similarities to CCTV in Cache. For example, on Clubhouse, it's very similar to Garage, of course, both being garages like we saw on Consulate, because that main breach is sort of a big focal point. But in the common meta that I've started to see develop on Chalet, not too many big wall, coming in garage takes. That's been less favorable. Usually what you'll see is, as you noted, the vertical play up above to the top of the wine cellar, and then you'll open up either the red wall or the T wall. I guess it doesn't really have a name, just near laundry. You get both of those open, and it's almost a free plant if you can get site control from then on. Basement sees a lot of shields, and that vertical play, while it's great for the attackers on that side, a lot of times you're going to see it for the defense as well, especially when we're speaking about the two middle floor sites. Extending vertically, very popular nowadays. You're almost always going to see it, and if you don't do it, you're kind of trolling.
Well, if you are on defense and you do win downstairs, make sure you clip everything that you do. And then once you publish that clip, put it on Twitter, put it on YouTube, show your streams, but just make sure that you have Monster Cat Gold running in the background for only $5 a month. You can find all the best techno music in the world just to make your clips that much better. They'll sound good, they'll look good, and you'll look cool.
Thank you for that one. Yeah, you've got to get the Monster Cat music behind. If you're not, it's not probably going to get as many likes, as many retweets and replies as it would otherwise. But maybe a little asterisk there. We can't guarantee anything. Maybe if your clips look a little bit like mine, that's just kind of par for the course. But
you'll get downvoted.
Big thank you to you get downvoted. Yeah, that's going to get added to Twitter just specifically for the clips. Because of how much influence. But Yeah, thank you to all of our sponsors. TGS has been great to work with. They're awesome for hosting Siege events because we really don't have a lot of organizers in Siege, especially for these repeating tournaments that you can count on. Because the one thing is, leagues are a little bit different than tournaments, and having an opportunity to play in a tournament, you're guaranteed to get games in and to have a shot potentially of making it all the way up into the prize pool. So if you want to compete and you want to be on stream, if maybe you're just a viewer now but are thinking about putting together a team that could potentially be taking the position of one of our 2 grand finalists here, you want to get on that grind immediately and keep an eye on TGS's Twitter feed at Gaming Stadium CS to learn when the next Siege tournament will be, and maybe myself and Chief will be back there again.
Now, if you're curious on what on earth is going on, we had a quick rehost. We're going to be starting the game all over. These teams will be stuck in the exact same bands, the exact same bomb site, and the exact same operators at the start of round 1. If they made 6 picks, which they didn't, they would also have to do that as well. But not much has changed. It was just a technical issue on our side of the rehost, so all these teams know exactly what to do. If anything, they're going to actually know more in this round because they know what that primary bomb site was, and they're going to have that, self-coaching amongst themselves, amongst all 5 of them, to hopefully start to propel themselves forward and create an attacking or defending strategy that will secure the day for these teams. Bar that primary bomb site, it forces that expansion upstairs. It forces multiple deployable shields. It forces ADSs and my pancakes. It's basically everything that attacker doesn't want to see. That's why it's a primary bomb site. It's another one of these bomb sites that forces good IGLs because you have to coordinate a flashbang dump. You have to coordinate you have to coordinate a frag grenade, an explosive device to eventually address those shields. Now, fortunately for Overture, only 1 shield to be seen, but the my pancakes and Jaeger ADSs are still something that is going to be a roadblock for them.
Yeah, that is a bit of a curious decision you mentioned. You only have the 1 shield. Generally, for the bar site here, you would want to bring the Goyo. Have a shield. Some common positions you might expect for Goyo shields would be Chimney, which is right directly almost above the bar itself. Of course, you can see there is a chimney in bar, and there is a fireplace in bar, and the chimney goes up above, and a shield generally will be here to provide a little bit more cover because you have to have support from the chimney and the balcony area at top main. Otherwise, your Wamai player, or whoever is going to hold here with the top blue shield, is going to be in a little bit more trouble. You want to give that Wamai as less issues as possible to try to deal with and to try to juggle, because you're constantly worrying about, how many utility do I have left, how many ADS are active currently, and of course, throwing out your Wamai magnets can be a little bit difficult if you are being distracted. For the hold upstairs so far, it seems maybe something more of a rush as Vim will fly in through the mudroom window. Badger gets cut down immediately, and the smoke caught off as well. An unorthodox push, but Overture Gaming looks like it's working for them so far, as Vendry will find 1 more, and David has got a bit of a comment for the attack strat being brought in this round. Gingy will not check the mudroom corner, and that mistake earns him his death, and it could be the death of Beamed as well. In fact, it is. This Vim will quick peek the corner, the pistol lands the headshot, and he sure is happy about that one. A flawless round to kick off Chalet.
That's technically the 3rd rush in a row for Overture. We saw 2 back on Consulate before they ended up losing that map, and they're just going to continue full steam ahead. They're not going to stop, and Valor is just unprepared for that rush. And to be fair, no defending team is going to be prepared for that rush. I was about to talk about the setup upstairs and how different it was. Usually that quad wall, the 2x2 wall over by offices, is fully reinforced, or you remove the entire floorboards away, or I guess technically the foot level holds of that. So if you ever see an attacker push from that scenario, you'll see them before they see you. It's almost like making your own one-way smoke, but none of that mattered because Overture just said, nice strategy, Valors. I'm just going to fly at you.
Suppose that's one part of the bar and gaming site we kind of glossed over. the rush in through the window. A lot of times you might see a frost rod on this site as well for that. I think it's G2 who do that a lot of times. They're going to place a frost mat under the window in gaming just to make sure that if somebody rushes in, not only are you probably going to know about it immediately, maybe a little bit faster than hearing the Ash open mudroom, which could be confusing, but also it kind of allows you, one person comes in, they're down, and then another one kind of comes in as well, so there's less manpower. Maybe the planter goes down, and that causes all sorts of issues, but VALORS are not going to repeat that site. Overture will have to work on their top floor attack, as seen here in round number 2.
CB emphasis being placed by Overture over on the north side of the map. Solar Stairs is going to be the avenue which we'll see Overture probably push in the most. That's a stairwell that a lot of teams tend to be hit or miss on because it is a large fatal funnel, and when you start to put a multiple deployable shields at the top of that stairwell, it becomes very difficult to deal with. But Overture, they've realized that the entire first floor is fully clear other than Hixer rotating on that exact same stairwell, and he's going to be patiently waiting either for a drone to identify him or for members of Overture to actually show their face. Unfortunately, Overture actually knew where Hixer was in the beginning. They sent a frag grenade down range. It will connect to Hixer, but not enough to be lethal. Beamed, on the other hand, he will drone himself in. He gets confirmed. Actually, he was droned out. He tries to go for the swing. He doesn't actually dish out much of anything.
The aggro play here from Vim. He's not on target at the start, but it doesn't matter anyway. So he'll take out Hixer and now focus on the engagement. It'll be Badger playing at Owl, who's giving him a hard time and holding off that Solarium side take, but Badger gets caught out. A great move from Hawks to play up on the reverse repel as things got a little bit claustrophobic all of a sudden inside of Solarium. A nade well-timed and tossed up, but nobody right at that position to suffer from it as a result. But, I mean, the pain has been dealt out really here in spades for Overture, for VALORS from Overture's hand. They've lost their Goyo and their Jaeger, and the positions they're holding are really inconsistent. Muddying the waters now will be Mitchard and Fendry, leaving it all up to Beam. The Mozzie, his position should be known off-site, but a 1v5 here, Chief. Beamed has no nitro for plant denial. He has to take all 5 of these fights, and as he tries to shoot, it's only in vain up through the floor. Sinnoh has got a nade. It'll cruise down to the bottom of the black stairs, and, well, Vim, he gets that pick. Overture. Round number 2 is theirs. Wow, this is quite something of a pace starting out on the map.
Overture is already showing why this is their map selection, applying pressure in every single way they push. Either not on that first floor extension where they directly dealt with Beam by drawing him out, forcing him to rotate down to the basement where he was kind of stuck in a position where he couldn't do anything while his entire teammates started to fall on that bomb site. In the meantime, Vim just worked his way up the solar stairs, taking gunfight after gunfight. Even the deployable shields, the ADSs that VALORS put down wasn't enough. We need to see VALORS completely go back to the drawing board if they go into Masters. Maybe you start to reinforce some of that trophy room wall and just have a brand new fixed position there. That way, Overture is forced to execute on a little bit more sides of the map and set themselves up for more mini games to deal with. Bar once again being shown by VALORS. Unlikely that Overture will go for another rush. Most likely VALORS are going to be prepared for something like that, and if they aren't, they should be able to crash back onto their bomb site in a relatively fast manner since there's 2 top hatches over in Library.
I'd really like to see something of a little bit more substance from VALORS. Maybe this is not exactly the best map. I love that Hawks is just teasing it. Maybe another one. Maybe played a little bit of mind games here. Do you think it's going to happen again, Chief?
I doubt there's a rush. Like, there's just no way. Like, I can't see Overture electing to go for such high-risk strategies multiple times in a row. At a certain point, VALORS will have to realize that their bomb site's compromised. I say that, and it seems to be a linear execute coming out by Overture. Not quite to the rush extent that they did last time. Oh, maybe not. Vim set himself up to go for a rush.
God, it's just round after round of the rush, and Fendry earns himself a nice pick, appears suddenly at the interior of Bar. Vim is sort of trapped here in Mudroom. Could be good, but look at this. The Jaeger's not watching, and both of them will line up. The Jaeger somehow makes it through and actually will get into gaming enough to deny the plant. only Hixer left. The mind games have worked wonders for Overture, who look like they're going to take their third attack win. The Aruni is in such a tough spot, coming up games long. One in Mudroom. The Ash is going to try to adjust the angle, and Gingy is kind of feeling a little bit furious about this. Vim is playing it oh so passively, and Hixer doesn't even know where to go at this point. It's really something. I mean, what do you do here? Surely this is like tactical timeout. He's not making it back to the case in time, let alone getting the defuse off.
Yeah, you don't execute. You talk amongst yourselves and you say, how do we stop Overture from just sending it into our bomb site? I think the first thing you do is you don't go back to bar. You try to show kitchen, or you know what? Again, maybe not particularly competitive, but maybe you just try and go downstairs to the basement. Why I suggest that is, remember, going back into Consulate, they brought out CEO, a bomb site that's not played very often on that map, but VALORS was actually able to win it. So you know what? Put Overture in a position that they might not be comfortable in. However, VALORS just looking lethargic here on Coachella.
That's the way that I would describe it, but they just don't feel like they want to rotate. I think you could bring the Frost at this point, and you could probably get away with it, especially for Master Bedroom and Office. A few places where you might want to see a shield. You could definitely count on one being placed at the piano window, allowing a jump in there. Definitely something you don't want to have happen as a defender. Also, another one that's pretty important could be coming in and looking at potentially a bathroom window from out on the balcony just to the west side. That could be something a little bit more helpful. And the last one, it's sort of up to user interpretation. Maybe it's on the ego window from sort of the breach side going out to that balcony there. That could be helpful, but they just refuse to bring the Frost. However, Overture don't really feel the need to really rush on this side, just because you can't really.
I'm not comfortable in this site. I don't see anything really changing all that much for VALORS. Sure, there's a new rotation downstairs in kitchen. We saw Overture press the issue there in the past, but what is that actually going to do? You have Nitrocell Bonanzas, that's 3 of them, but again, that's not addressing the issues of the round. The issues is the fact that Overture is able to execute on the first floor, couple that first floor control into second floor control, and they're all doing that from the basement. Maybe if you had a strategy where you stopped the insertion into the basement, maybe that's the way to go. But you can already start to see the macro strategy for Overture starting to be replicated once again. They have crossfires being established in the trophy window, as well as Hawks on the rappel into Solar. So VALORS, if they want those Nitrocells to sing, maybe you use it on Hawks, who's actually vulnerable on drone.
Yeah, that would be something to see. Surely, VALORS had played sort of this realm here in the middle floor, but it looks like they really aren't a lot confident of it, and you know, I wouldn't be either. Overture have great fundamentals right now. The way that they're attacking is incredibly solid. Beamed having a few issues shooting the drone. You always have to keep in mind what Sinnoh is doing in relation to the Melusi's position at table head, which head is spotted, but Sinnoh just unable to thread the needle. We'll see the Melusi back off. Great play there by Hixer to come up from the west main stairs. The call was surely made. Corner checked, but I don't know where Beamed really went there. Just kind of hiding in the grass like a snake. Guerrilla warfare, some would say, but either way, that's the refrag, that's the trade. At least we won't see another flawless attack win here for Overture if you're a fan of Valor in their camp. Where do you see this one going here, Chief?
It's going to be still another execute up through Solar, and you can tell that both of these teams know it perfectly well, particularly VALORS, who just picked up that Goyo shield. That was Badger. He had it over in Piano. Now it's going to be facing towards the north, and an awkward swing. Mitcher just falls. That was a no information peek, and it will immediately get down but not outed by the Alda. But Mitchell will be res back up. Badger is able to swing on his teammate, just both of them holding these angles, looking directly towards a solar door. David stays a little bit too long after having that Alda Magnum Browns down range. He ends up going down but not out, and he's very unlikely to be picked back up. He's on an island over by the bed. There's no way his teammates will ever get to him unless he makes some Hail Mary crawl on his belly, but you can see the angle that's being held. His life has now been lost. All he can do is act as a human drone.
I really love this play made by Fendry there, coming over to the big window, allowing the pressure, and now this repel will be critical. Fendry guns down Hixer and Badger, and the nade will finally confirm onto David. Only Gingy left in the clutch. Plant down. Attackers backing off, giving Gingy space, but still not completely holding it passive in its entirety. Lifeline will be sent out. Proximity detonation, position revealed. Case now spotted, and the reverse repel will get the frag. Overture Gaming now 4 rounds in a row with some really impressive attack stuff.
That looked like it was almost a Consulate CEO take. The upside down repels, the pressure that was being made on the solar stairs. And Overture, honestly, Reese, made it look easy. Every attempt that VALORS did was purely in vain. The only thing that they had that really impacted that round was Hixer flanking up the basement stairs, taking the gunfight. He won one and then rotated over to Mudroom where he held in a corner and just sat there and did nothing. They need to find ways of taking more gunfights. If you can basically have Hixer win 2 or more of those gunfights, that completely stalls for Overture. So maybe what Overture needs is what VALORS needs to do is just have a strategy where they do nothing but take gunfights. You swing, you play aggressive, because Overture is allowed map control for free, and that's just unacceptable.
We're starting to kind of hone in on some of the problems, and I love the fact that after each and every one of these rounds, Fendry is just dropping it in chat. Good round, good round. He's really working on the mental game right now, and I imagine it's probably wearing VALOR's mental a little bit thin, probably starting to get frustrated that you're losing rounds just one after another. Heading down to the basement site, there isn't a real possibility for a rush to happen here. Late reinforcement on the lobby hatch, but it should be in the clear for Badger, who will end up rotating back. The one route that we could see the rush is definitely going to be trench side, but the attacker position should inform you about whether or not this will be that rush. Stack up over by aiming. This could be more of maybe a blue take, which wouldn't be completely unheard of, but certainly a little bit rarer in the grand spectrum of things. Maybe a possibility for a nitro in games, but it doesn't look like anyone is down there enough, and there was a drone sent below as well to make sure the library take would not be so contested.
We actually see a lot of teams go for a master take instead. That way you have direct access into the ceiling of the basement, but technically both of these accomplish the same goal. It's just which avenue is going to be more likely to run into defenders, and it seems like Overture realized that library is going to be the easier assault for them. And the wall has already been practically opened up. The ceiling has been removed, and Hawk's going to get the easiest hard breach of his life. That wall has been opened, and look what it's done to VALORS. They're starting to stack in one bomb site. If Overture drones out Snowmobile, they'll realize, hey, there's only one on the bomb site. Everybody else can't hold from their fixed positions. We could almost go for a rush, overwhelm that one player. We go for a smoke plant, and it should be an easy plant for us.
Here's a bit of the util burn coming through. Hatch will be opened up. This should alleviate any pressure from inside connector. Nitro will be launched, but it looks like it's just a throw and a miss. The vertical pressure, this is what we were talking about for a lot of the basement attacks. Gingy spotted below, and Mitchard deals a massive part of that health, removing it and making the K just so low. This is going to be a bit of an awkward one to work with for Gingy. Does have a nitro. Badger making liberal use of the smoke canisters, but look at that.
Vim is already in the bomb site, storming down the basement stairs. More kills go in favor of Overture, and they're just starting to crumble. Beamed is down but not out. Hixer rotates back up through that skyline. He now has that top floor control. He can use the angles of the attackers against them, but he's on an island by himself. A double swing for David, able to shut down the planter, but he gets refragged in that process. Now it's on Hixer, who's on that top deck. Overture just heard him make that rotation down the stairwell, so Fendry is going to completely relocate into the wine site, and he won't even be able to make it down into the basement, falling in that rotation. Overture, 5 rounds in a row, an incredible attacking execute. They're so close to making it a flawless half.
It's just within arm's length now, the final round to be snatched up. You can see there's so much uncertainty around VALORS, what site they want to go, clearly discussing how they want to end this half and what their next defense, potentially final defense, is going to look like here in regular time. The Ella brought out, but no Frost yet. VALORS just seem to be allergic to the Frost. They don't want to bring it. They're not going to. This one is quite a storyline. VALORS have been, just asleep so far. I get it. There was a rush a couple times, and when it happened in the third gaming round, you probably weren't expecting it. I kind of, I'll give myself a little bit of credit. I was like, they're trolling in chat. They're saying, oh, do we rush again? Do we rush again? But yeah, they're going to do it again. Because at that moment, it's pretty much nothing to lose. They already had the map one not go in their favored, but you can see it. The chat is just so active. Overture Gaming are having fun here, and it's not going to be a very enjoyable one for VALORS.
I'm glad you just mentioned that, Reese, because VALORS don't look like they're having fun. They were pretty dominant on console, not so lopsided as this series or this map, and it might be that VALORS are like, all right, I'm 100% expecting a rush. We currently see Ella in play, CQC, with an FO12. Held close on that west window, and Overture isn't anywhere near that. It is mind game after mind game, not only just from all chat, as Overture pushing in from the north side, but they end up getting spawn peek from a position that nobody saw coming. That's Mitcher now falling a set of frag grenades off the board, as well as a sledgehammer. So when you go up against the double deployable shield strategy, the double ADS, as well as a my pancake strat, you're actually going to be significantly nerfed. You're not going to really have the utility to directly deal with that.
No, the reserves are going to be a little bit low, and that could be a problem. Overture Gaming might have to try and navigate that obstacle to be seen later down the line. Reserve of flashbangs is completely non-existent. They have 2 smokes, Chief. That's not enough to clear anything, really. You're going to get maybe a few magnets, 1 ADS, 2 ADS, maybe if you time it right for a short moment. I'm sorry, that's just too little. I'm not really satisfied with the level of util burn that we have here, and the lifelines are really the only saving grace, but the problem is, Fendry, is he in position, and is he prepared to do so? We'll see some of the Ash breaching rounds launch downwards, but this is really VALOR's round to lose in what utility they burn. And a great bulletproof camera as well there. Completely spots out 2 of the players. We'll see one maybe go up from main side, try to add a little bit more pressure to what already exists. Nade is cooked. Will it sink? Like it's tossed in and caught by the ADS. You start to see a few of those side effects of the lack of burn, and Fendry jumps in but ripped apart at the sandwich window by Gingy, playing that FO12 from below. Monster of a weapon, and maybe that frustration felt for so long on VALORS is starting to seep through on the other side.
David's 3 ADS is completely now reset, so if you wanted to deal with that shield, it won't be possible. There's no utility to be seen, but bullets are good enough. David falls, and more members of VALORS start to crumble. Their top floor hold looked perfect. They wasted time. They wasted utility. But when it came down to those gunfights, they weren't able to seal the deal. Both these rosters are now tied up in that man count department, and Overture is still continuing forward with their execute. Not a lot of time left on this clock, only 20 seconds, and the kills are getting better. Badger's off the board. The advantage is now in favor of Overture once again, rifling rounds over into Split, not finding their contact, and Hixer gun up once again after being down early on. He's trying to hold the fort, an incredible connect, and now it's all on Genji. FO12 in hand, going for the swing, and it won't even be possible. A 6-0 half for Overture, a perfect stomp on attack.
Well, Chief, it's looking like we're about to see our first legitimate 7-0 result on Chalet, and this one almost promising that we'll end up on Clubhouse after all as the decider to step forward. VALORS, their defense, what even was that? I get it, Chalet, it's not the greatest map to play as a defender, but the rushes completely shattered the mental, anything that they had coming off the back of Consulate. And Overture Gaming are riding high. I fear that the momentum here, if they can close it out within 2 or 3 rounds on Chalet, that might kind of transfer over a little bit onto the third map, and maybe we'll see Overture Gaming upset the odds here and be our next champion.
I think VALORS are just angry that Theme Park was removed from the map pool, a map that was eventually tested well in North America, understood well in North America. Unfortunately, not the case for the rest of the world. But here in Chalet, I mean, this new French map is incredible. It's a hometown for Overture. They just look solid. Now, we haven't seen their defense, and to be fair, Reese, this map is traditionally attacker-sided in professional play. I know you don't like to always show that because it is true. We are talking about an amateur tournament, and just because it's one way in professional play doesn't mean it is going to be that way in amateur play, but still, it's something that we have to monitor moving forward. And I have to say, I like the defense already better for Overture. I like to see this emphasis being made in this one quadrant, this one kill box where you see 4 reinforcements relocated upstairs. I mean, at a certain point, it becomes practically impossible for the attackers to even hard breach, getting that line of sight into library, unless you do a 2-pronged assault downstairs on that first floor, where you're going to run into the exact same reinforcements.
I love the energy that Overture are bringing right now. They're just constantly in the chat. Everything that goes by, they're making a comment on it, and they're just playing to have fun, which is, you know, what we're here for. Of course, $500 CAD on the line, but, you know, it's a video game, and we're here to have fun. We're here to watch some Siege and to have a good time, really. And Overture, that's got to be their MO right now. VALORS need something, a turning point. I don't think this is going to be a comeback unless VALORS can win 3 dominant rounds in a row. And even then, it's still on the line. There has to be just a total switch. It's sort of like kind of what we had earlier, you'll remember, where we just had to say, you gotta forget the first half. You need to remember the round count, but forget the mistakes until it's time to come back in scrims and try to fix up some of those issues, because this is do or die. If VALORS lose this map, you know, they're back at even odds. It would be essentially a reset, a single map, a best of 12 rounds to decide it all.
One of the Selma charges will go off, facing towards the south, allowing an avenue for the attackers to deal with library. However, it's not the advantageous wall. Most of them, everyone wants to open up that west wall. But even with it not opened up, Findry's going to fall, and a wave of death for Overture. This is the first round where they've really had a man disadvantage, and Hawks isn't looking much better either. He takes round after round over by the library stairs, and he's forced to now retreat away from his fixed position, away from that deployable shield. The full control, that topside deck for VALORS is in their favor. They just have to continue on with that vertical destruction, softening up the defenders and putting them in scenarios that they won't be particularly comfortable with. And with Hixer continuously working deeper into Fireplace, he's going to accomplish that exact same goal.
Count does benefit VALORS in this somber moment. Who am I, though? I think it's been locked into the back of Mudroom. VALORS have the additional manpower to try to sandwich this player, and Hawks is on such little HP. One stray bullet even through the barricade penetrating could be enough to take him down. Mitchard spotted in that AUG will fail him in the moment against such a formidable gun like the AK-12. Beam's rifle will come alive as well, and Vim, he's the only one who can stop this. Now, can he deny the plant the sightline? It's just not there. David gets it down, and VALORS are finally, after 6 rounds of suffering, gonna put one on the board here on Coastline, on Chalet, and stop the momentum.
Well, maybe it is going slightly in favor of the attackers. Overture looked unstoppable on their attacking run, and VALORS, at least in their first showing on attack, they do the exact same thing Overture Gaming did. They apply pressure, they address the deployable shields, they address the ADSs, and they just shut down the defenders stuck in those fixed positions. That's the problem with Bar, is it's so difficult to hold your ground with the attackers able to set up so many different executes. And as soon as that top floor control is lost, I mean, how do you ever defend it as a defender? You're stuck in that bomb site. Those top hatches that you once used to get safely back into your bomb site is now being used against you. Maybe you can have Hawk stand his ground over on the library stairs, continuously play behind that deployable shield, that Goyo Vulcan shield. However, that might not be the play, because since he was sitting at below 25 HP, one bullet would have been his undoing, and if that shield exploded in his face, it also would have finished him off. His only choice was to be recalled back to the bomb site, but it wasn't much of a choice. It was a losing decision no matter what he ended up playing. Now Overture, after losing their only round so far here on Chalet, they're going to be changing up a bomb site that we haven't yet seen, at least when VALORS was on defense. The tertiary bomb site downstairs in kitchen.
So for the kitchen site, essentially the idea here in this defense is you almost try to play like an office defense. Hold up above at any means necessary, or by any means necessary, until the end of the line. X is in really a weird position. Prone at one of the windows in West Main. I would think for a moment maybe he would be preparing for a jump out, but maybe this is just a position where he feels safe. I don't know. We'll have to ask after the fact. Maybe I'll DM him on Twitter to kind of figure out what the idea is for this position. What's your take on the Twitch pick here, though?
So VALORS struggled to open up that quad wall, and that's probably just a way to expedite it. All those K-Claws that were shown in round 7 stopped VALORS dead in their tracks. Now you're going to be able to expedite that clear a little bit more. It's, again, that opportunity cost utility, which has been a jargon buzzword that they've been using the entire time. If you're going to bring out the Twitch, you're going to forgo some other operator. Particularly, it's going to be flex support, so maybe an Iana, maybe a true flank watch, but it won't matter when your primary and only hard breacher, David, on the upside down rappel over to the north, the solar stairs window has been dropped. He was also the diffuser holder. That means somebody on VALORS has to leave their execute to pick that piece of utility up. That's going to waste a ton of time, not including the utility that was lost for free.
That is just such a painful death to have for David. Time waste now, and Jinji's lost as well. I don't know. I have to criticize that. I don't think David should have made that play. I don't think he should have even gone over to the window, as this has just completely been one after another. The round falling to bits. It's Hixer left. The aggressive play, a gas canister. That could be enough to take out Hixer. They're really throwing out the kitchen sink at this point. There's just no way for Hixer to win this reasonably. He's going to kill himself to end the game. Overture, it's 7-1. One of the fastest matches that we had so far. Not a complete domination, no 7-0, but a flawless half and only one round of error for Overture Gaming, as they will put us at equal here in the TGS Open Series 2-year anniversary tournament grand finals.
Well, the worst that has been dealt by these teams in their bracket run to get here was a 7-2. Now that storyline is going to get better for Overture, putting that 7-1 down range. And honestly, Overture, they selected Chalet for a reason. It was clearly their best map, or one of their best maps in the map pool. And VALORS, not particularly comfortable in this map. That's the beauty of a best of 3 series, Reese. You can bring out maps that you're not necessarily comfortable with. You just have to decide that if you want to bring out a map like Clubhouse for that actual decider map, it's a good map. And fortunately for just about every Siege team under the sun, since technically Clubhouse is the longest standing map that hasn't been touched, even though it was back in round or map year 1 when they map buffed it, it's something that every team can play. They're confident on it. They know the macro strategy. So it's going to put both these teams at the same advantage.
And that's one of the things as well about a best of 3 and how it all works. Unless you're kind of a crazy grinder and you've got a 6-map pool that you practice on constantly, you're going to have to play a map that you might not be comfortable on. And it looks like that was Chalet for VALORS, but this is a best of 3. The idea behind the players and how they're going to play this, they win their map choice, the second map, their opponent selection, it really doesn't matter in the larger scheme of things because you are playing to win this on the decider. And we will have that very decider. It's Clubhouse, the final map here in the TGS Open Series. But before we get there, we've got a short break before we get ready. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are excited as I am because we're getting into the deciding map, the one to battle for it all here in the TGS 2-year Anniversary Open Series. Big congratulations to the boys over at the Gaming Stadium, and a big thanks once more for allowing myself and Chief to come in and make this event possible. We're here for the decider, though, Chief. It's Clubhouse ahead of us. Let's talk about it.
I'm so excited to see Clubhouse. Not the first time that we've seen it today. VALORS showed it originally. And refresh my memory, they would end up losing that map. It was like a 7-4, 7-5 that they ended up, foregoing. Unfortunately, they actually won that because they lost Oregon, our first map of the day. They ended up winning Clubhouse. And again, we talked about the issues that Valor had at the beginning, some of those droning errors. They were a little bit less so on Clubhouse and actually really not shown at all on Consulate. However, we'll just kind of skip over Chalet for Valor simply because I think it was a map that just wasn't in their map pool. They just didn't look comfortable on it. But fortunately for them, moving into Clubhouse, it's going to be a map they should be pretty comfortable on.
It happens. And that's one thing as well that I wanted to point out. In the veto process for this best of 3, they chose to ban Oregon because they didn't play on it well earlier. Instead, it let Chalet slip through. And I'm going to go look up in the earlier map veto because I want to see if it was Chalet that they banned before that when they played in the winners bracket final and, kind of like, oh, we're going to ban Chalet because we don't like it early in the day, but, maybe that causes a few issues after the fact. Here is the map veto from earlier. It looked like, no, I've got the wrong one. Okay, so it must have reset, but I wonder what that is earlier. That's kind of a question on my mind. Maybe we'll have to go back, or maybe somebody from production remembers and they can inform me, but we're here on Clubhouse, and so we got a bit of a game to dissect in front of us. I cannot be more prepared for this one. And, well, there is one thing on the line here, Chief. We will be deciding a new champion for the TGS Open Series in 2021. Neither the champion of the previous tourney in May or the runner-up from that best of 3 are here on the final round.
Gym Bedroom. VALORS, they showed this before. This was actually their primary bomb site and one of their best. If we go back into Clubhouse, they, as well as their opponents, struggled to hold CCTV. It simply came down to the attackers had far too much control outside the map, being able just to rip away those hard reinforced walls. So now we're going to see VALORS say, all right, I respect that strategy. I respect my weaknesses. We're going to be going over to what a lot of teams actually consider the 3rd weakest bomb site on this map. But they're going to have a lot of utility to hopefully hold this bomb site on down. We're going to see castle barricades going on many of the south windows, cutting off lines of sight that Overture desperately wants to have. But since Overture does have a sledge in play, they're able to swing that sledgehammer against those castle barricades and destroy them instantaneously. But there are more fixed positions from VALORS. We're going to be seeing Goyo shields. No smoke being brought out, but 2 different explosive Vulcan shields being brought out from Beam, and you can put them just about anywhere you want. You start to couple in ADSs and will buy pancakes, and those Goyo shields will be practically indestructible.
That is going to be a bit of a nightmare to try to work through. And, you know, I wish him good luck for Overture's sake. But there's one question I kind of neglected to answer here, Chief. Are we going to see another Overture set of rushes?
I hope not. Rushes to me either are the best play in the world, or their information, their sign of being desperate. And it's impossible to tell which one it was unless you in the overhead saw, hey, a drone actually walked its way through this position and confirmed it was open. Again, rushes are just so risky. You can't guarantee them working. And it's pretty easy to guarantee if you have a good drone economy, if you have good usage of hard breach, you can break down the extension that we currently see being brought out from VALORS. Again, I'd just rather see an IGL address the issues altogether instead of avoiding them.
Nice opening pick there to begin things, but a shotgun swing from David is going to send Mitchard packing. And you could say the same about Sinnoh as well. Hixer pulls off a magnificent kill there. I had to go quickly check my my burning question. We did have VALORS ban Chalet in the earlier veto, but it was not at the initial stage. It was actually the second ban right after the maps were picked, so I was curious about that. Progress still marches onward in the inevitable passing of time for Overture's attack, but things are looking a bit dire with Hixer close at the wall. A set of frag grenades could be used here, Chief, to try to upset this position, especially if they're aware of it, but it'll actually be Hawks who uses an exothermic and a nade rolling forward, the double whammy onto Hixer at back red, and he has nowhere left to go. Man advantage, it's back at equal.
Slammed and finished off. Logi opened up wide for Overture, but they still need to take a few more gunfights. Pings will go out, identifying the member of VALORS sitting close in that corner. If there were more nades be seen, you can nade out that power position, but they actually allow that rotation to go on through, eventually being addressed. Gingy's going to find one. These rosters tie themselves back up. Diffuser lost over into connector, something that Overture has to re-grab. That's going to take some time off the board, and it seems like Overture is just more eager on taking future on gunfights, looking over by the rack, not actually pulling the trigger. Now Gingy finds a 2K in this round, looking very winnable for VALORS, and with David confirming that kill, VALORS will be able to take round number 1, able to hold their fortress down off good gunplay.
Strong displays of understanding and game sense across both sides. The intel, what a call made there. That was, I'll say, risky for the Thermite to try to put down an exothermic there. If the Jaeger had hopped through, there might have been a tiny window for him to get the kill, but the exothermic first, the nade second, and the Jaeger just didn't know what hit him, blindsided there, and of course he wouldn't have ever had ADS because they were all deployed and left at the top of the red stairs. No cover for him, but even despite that short falling, it's David and Gingy who clutch up near the end to stop the pain train of Fendry, who has been heating up across this series, not only in the previous map with a stellar kill potential, but also now here on Clubhouse as he makes sure to put that bit of effort forward for his team.
Basement defense being set up by VALORS, and they're going to go for more or less the same thing that they showed in our first series of day, reinforcing the long angle that the B-hatch can look down on. Now that's going to be something, if Overture wants to directly deal with, they would have to use some type of hard breach charge. But since Habano is banned by VALORS, the only option that you really have is bringing out an Ace Selma and going for kind of just this yeet where you open up the wall. Very unlikely to be done, particularly since we're not showing an Ace at all. Thermite and Maverick, the operator selected for Overture, and it will make sense since Cade is available. He can directly deny access to any of those top hashes. The only operator that Overture has to directly deal with that will be that Maverick. You just slice away through the electrified wall, and that reinforcement will fall, and then that's the entrance, the insertion point that Overture will need.
This is a curious bit of artwork done by the Surrey Torch at the back of the dirt wall. 3 different sight lines made, and Mitchard is going to try to quick peek back and forth between them. Shots will ring out as you make sure that nobody gets too eager on the VALORS side. Specifically, it'd be that smoke player, David. Make sure he doesn't try to creep up into the absence of anyone at the inner area of the dirt tunnel. Maybe a drone to go by and try to suss out this position, but an effectual standstill at the dirt tunnel right now. The Maverick is kind of banking on David peeking and going aggressive, but a smoke player, if had any experience, you're never going to do that, especially in this scenario. You have to try to back your team up, because if you lose dirt control, that is so much pressure to try to fend off. Mitchard is going to find the opener, even despite after losing a bit of health, and Gingy makes a reaction off the back of the new news. The hatch in kitchen is now open.
Dirt tunnel still attempting to be compromised as Hixer works his way up the stairs, but finished off by a Claire who was placed after the fact, losing his life. Findra, on the other hand, he's struggling in dirt tunnel. He's going to inhale a lot of toxic gas and forced to rotate away. The good story for David is he has all of his ADSs fully reactivated and still 20 seconds of time denial stemming directly from those smoke canisters. However, Overture, they still have a lot of control of the map. They can start to open up more hatches of stock if they want to go for a blue execute. And since we see the Ionic clone going down range in that exact area, it can work in their favor. Them gets slammed, holding a prone angle. Beam is allowed to punish him outright. And now the control that Overture once had, the man advantage has now slipped away through their fingers. But Overture is still lurking over in the southeast side of the map, trying to take a gunfight against Gingy, who is stuck in this blue with no hope of leaving, eventually being finished off by Fendry. VALORS are going to press the issue even more. Beam is stuck in Mimo, into Moto. He's able to take the kill. The hatch drop, not in his favor. Now he rotates above. He has the high ground. He has the Anakin angle, and more crucially, he has the red pings, but he doesn't know where Fendry rotated to. Fendry now has control of that B site. Bim is forced to make the rotation. He spots the planter, finished off, downed. It is a 1v1. There's no hope of retrieving the diffuser in time. You can still go for it. It's going to be unlikely to be done, but still done. Cerno, a perfect rotation. He can hear Beam going for the aggressive play. Doesn't know where it's transpiring. He has the red pings against him. It's a potato fest, and Beamed will not be able to seal the deal. He'll end up falling.
By a fraction of a second, the Iana will win it, looking like almost so desperately close there for the Malusi in the 1-on-3. But she's shut down to make sure that we do not have 2 rounds in a row. Such a close scenario, almost kind of a repeat of what we had at round 1. Kind of a skirmish back and forth for early control for the fight from utility point of view, and ultimately almost a clutch, but finally ripped back by the lesser force in the final seconds.
Those are the rounds where you just kept guessing the entire time. It was impossible to tell, honestly. So no, I thought they had lost the round. I almost couldn't fathom them being able to retrieve that diffuser, be able to rotate to a plantable position, but that was totally capable of. Again, when you're in a 1v1, there's so many things swirling on your head. There's so many decisions that you can make, and honestly, half the decisions is the wrong one. You have to be picture perfect, and unfortunately, VALORS, they let that round slip away. But to be fair, that was probably too close for comfort for either one of these teams, because VALOR, they started off that execute with a man disadvantage, and it was an incredible attempt just to be able to get to a 1v1.
And I have to say, that was such a great call to take the diffuser instead of going back through church to go down Moto hallway. I don't know if it was an audio cue or maybe just kind of instinct not to go down there. I mean, there could have been a player in 1,000 different positions there, bottom main, kitchen hatch, but they took the diffuser and they tried to plant it in the most secure position possible. The singular fact that they recovered the diffuser at all is ultimately, I think, what made that round possible. And that's kind of moment you live for here in Siege. Those tactical decisions that you make on the fly. And ultimately, yeah, maybe the player who recovered the case died at Superbox, but it still won the round regardless, because the case forced the Malusi into an uncomfortable position.
Baseman being selected once again by VALORS, and I'm never a fan of going to the bomb site twice in a row, but honestly, the way VALORS, as well as everybody who we've seen on defense of Clubhouse, has played, it seems just to be an awkward position. Nobody's able to hold CCTV, so you know what? Good on them for realizing that and now bringing us back downstairs to the basement, because in all honesty, either one of these rosters could have won basement. Just came down to a clutch play, and clutch plays are really a 50-50 win rate. You just flip a coin, and whatever side it lands on, whatever team it lands on tends to be victorious. Now, VALORS, they're going to go for more or less the same style of defense. Smoke is being played over by Dirt Tunnel. We're going to be seeing Kaid once again being brought out. He's going to be forced to hold those top patches for as long as possible. You place them on Moto, you place them on stock. The attackers are going to have to use a lot of that Surya torch to be able to open it up. And that's the thing. You can only open up one hatch and Dirt Tunnel. Beyond that, that torch will not have enough fuel to have that type of play.
Always some question of how efficient can you be with the torch, and well, the main use of it has been primarily to get this dirt wall open so that David, can't just communicate they're not pushing dirt. There's no pressure at all, because usually when that comm is made, you'll just have the shield rotated. Somebody would probably bring it back and maybe put it at super box, gives you more cover for the Arsenal play, and crucially, it gives you cover against the hatch, which is probably the most important. You need to kind of still occupy the mine. You don't necessarily have to push into dirt. You just need to make sure that the smoke player, David, knows that could be an opportunity. And dirt gives you direct access into the site, which is what makes it so incredibly valuable.
Two strong players knowing exactly where each other are, but they're just playing the time game. They don't want to take this gunfight, and Mitchell is going to say, all right, I respect your position upstairs, and rotate away, or maybe he didn't even know. That was just game instinct saying there could be a flank in this particular side of the map over towards the east, but not being addressed is actually going to leave a large hole for OVERTURE. Their flank is fully exposed, and when they start to participate in this vertical clear, with Mitchell and that sledgehammer starting to go off, it's going to be actually something that they have to monitor. If they lose that power position off the bat, I mean, good luck ever executing on the kitchen. Good exchange back and forth. Frag grenades removing the Cade Claw, and then, well, another frag grenade spawned in return, but Thermite has been down. That kitchen hatch most likely will not be opened up. The vertical angle is being played against the attackers, eventually being refragged, but the most crucial player in this lobby, Hawks on the Thermite, is no more.
That could hurt in the long game here. You can see, look at Beam. He's free to play inside Moto and relatively carefree to hold back here. Pressure at the long haul. Nade launched on by, but it's a missed one, and it takes off. Just a tiny bit of health from Vim. The toxic canister in the combo from Beamed. 2 picks, but the trade is in from Mitchard. Lights are out and the race is on. Can try to come in from the dirt tunnel, but Smoke will shut it down. 3v1, all the odds stacked against Mitchard. He gets the first pick, though, and that's crucial to get the 1v3 ace clutch. Working his progress at the main stairs, but it's Genji from back Arsenal pulse spot who shuts it down in the end, as VALORS will fix the errors of their previous defense and put together a solid Church Arsenal defense.
Hawks falling was the avenue that VALORS needed to win that round. As soon as Hawks was off the board, OVERTURE was sent in a downward spiral, forced to create a brand new strategy on the fly, and their strategy was to send it in through Ash Wall. And honestly, I can't fault them for making that decision. I would have liked to at least seen them try to put some emphasis maybe over in blue to establish a new crossfire and continue to work their way down in through dirt, just trying to draw away some of the guns of Valor away from the Ash Wall breach. But honestly, OVERTURE, they're stuck in such a bad position. I can't fault them for just going for linear execute, just trying to go for broke. But what they should have done was a little bit more droning play, send it over towards Bank and trying to see if there's anybody lurking in Moto. Maybe find some information and have an execute there. They did know it off the Zofia lifeline, but they seem to have forgot about that scenario or just got a little bit too tunnel vision into the full sim.
You have to be able to tamp down on the tunnel vision and manage it. It's really difficult to root out it's not something that I can say I've experienced in Siege, but every player, surely, there's been a moment where, you hear a comm, or you hear an audio cue, and, you fixate on that. Maybe you're trying to push from the site, but you hear one at top red, and so you're so focused on that, you push through the cast drawer that you fail to check if there's somebody at, tuck corner, if there's somebody playing the prone angle from rafters. You have to be dynamic in Siege, and that's a big part about why I've dedicated my life to being a caster for it, because it's very rare that you have such a game like this that, changes on the fly, and something like that being adaptable, being, moldable as a player can ultimately be the difference maker. And that wasn't present for VALORS on Chalet. They did not adapt really, until the very end. With the Ella shotgun to try to shut down the rush, but Overture, they adapted in their own right. They just stopped doing the rush. They played it 2 rounds, they shattered the mental, and it crushed the spirits of VALORS. But their spirits, their energy, their chemistry, and the electrifying morale within the team at this very moment is still so tentative.
Fendry cracked open that east main wall like an egg, practically for free, with nothing that VALORS can do about it. And now with a gaping hole in the VALORS defense, they need to find something to work for them, and not just setting up all their troops into one area. 2 SMG-11 bros stuck on the red stairs, and Hixer not too far away. Dangerous positions to be in, and that's the power of the CCTV attack already being shown. I mean, free control by Overture, putting members of Valor in such an awkward position. I mean, again, stacking up, allowing for Fendry to send a frag grenade downrange. Now, Hixer will be the wiser of this. He knows something odd is going down. He attempts to swing downstairs, but he doesn't actually find anything. Beamed, on the other hand, will fall into another engagement, and Hixer, he will take that gunfight, losing a ton of HP. Back up the red stairs he'll go, but returning to where his comrades have already fallen. Badger in a very bad spot. That wall gets opened up. He will be removed, and now he's forced to go shotgun in hand, CQC style, but he's again on an island by himself. He gets it down on 1, and an incredible round, an incredible showing, and he's still looking for more. An aggressive play with a shotgun.
No way!
One. There's still another one on the other side of that door frame. Hawks knows this, but he gets shut down from a long angle. Now it's on Fringy and Vilm. A dangerous position to be in, and Badger will confirm that kill. The bomb site, once opened up, has now been closed for Overture.
Badger is just so good, making a round, making a play out of almost nothing. Can he get the final kill? The corner is checked, the head pops up, but Fendry will finally shut down the mute. This is not impossible, but the electrification, Fendry, he does not have the case. He's got to play for the pick. One close at the wall, but Vim somehow makes it happen. But Gingy, by the skin of his teeth, will keep VALORS fighting on. The Cade for 2. And Gingy, the final holdout, the last pillar does not crumble. As we step into round number 5, and VALORS have got 2 in a row.
That round was one off individual gunplay by VALORS. Badger single-handedly saved the day for his roster. There isn't a world where he should have ever won one of those kills, let alone 3 of them. I mean, he realized that he was dead. So he said, all right, I'm a dead man walking. I'm just going to take a gunfight. I have nothing else to lose. If I sit in this corner, I will certainly be dead. If I make a play, at least I died fighting. And you know what? He took the first gunfight. He won that. And he said, wow, I have now full control of cons. I now know that I have to continue to fight because I can't return back to my bomb site. So he swung again, collected another one with a shotgun, and at that point, he had wasted time, he had wasted members of Overture, and finding that third was the cherry on top for that aggressive play. I mean, a textbook positional advantage for the defense. I guess converting a disadvantage into an advantage.
And I was just talking about this last night on Twitter. That type of play is so rare. But Badger kind of sensed that he had to do something. And that's the foundation of what separates something like league play from qualifiers in tournaments. For Badger, it was do or die, and trusting his own abilities is what changed that position. You might have heard me. I was gasping because I thought surely Badger is dead. There's one pressuring him from each side, and he can't go anywhere. But they fall back, and Overture's hesitation, their lack of maybe a full confidence, gives Badger that opportunity. It opens the window, and well, Badger kind of slammed it back in their faces, but we got to move on to round number 5. Look at this. Beam just playing a bullet hole, and he hoses down Vendry. No drone, no intel.
Richard attempting the refrag, stuck in the secret stairs, but shots being exchanged, and Mitchard is going to be the loser of that, and more HP loss. Beam's on a tear. He's feeling warm and hot after that amazing play by his teammate, and he wants to continuously pad these stats on fourth. Mitchard now falls to Beam, and the onslaught for Overture over to the east side of the map. It's starting to crumble. They're trying to address over the red. They stun lock Gingy, who's able to still get a miraculous headshot. Now it's on Hawks, who's about 30 HP. And he's the only one left for his team. He's going against 5. We're not even at the halfway mark in this round, and he has the entire soft targets of Valor in his way, plus their utility. This round number 5, is a true burial ground for Overture. They were looking hot on our second map of the day, but Reese, I haven't seen them talk in all chat once. That was a sign of them being happy-go-lucky players. Now, they look a little shaken.
Yeah. Thermite will rotate, but the jammer is in his way, and so this is effectively Overture's recess to step back and say, what is going wrong? How does Beam not get drone? It's just a poor entry performance. Exothermic on the hatch. Beam doesn't care. He doesn't move an inch. Goes prone even to wait below it. And Hawks is just opening things to do it at this point. Maybe he pulls away with one freebie, maybe a single pick. But the impact of this is here. Valor's defense looks mighty good so far. Whether it's Badger advancing in the heat of the moment or Beamed just having absolute confidence to know that he can just push up. Not only does he get the hose down, I can afford that mistake, but I don't have an excuse for it. It's just poor droning. It's just Overture not playing together. But the second pick, you cannot do that. You need a 2 versus 1, but it wasn't there. Nobody was in the moment to support Mitchard, and so he died. And that's that.
Heartbreaking decision-making being made by Overture. We've seen this map. There is plenty of teams in amateur play that will make this map attacker-sided. Team Mystic, the former Aggro roster, is the first one that comes to mind. And, I mean, just the way that they apply pressure to every single bomb site, the way that they're executing is perfect. Overture, on the other hand, it's individual play. It's a lack of drones, and they're suffering as a result. Gym Bedroom was a bomb site that they lost the last time that they showed it based on the exact same errors. And now, if there is some light at the end of the tunnel for Overture, it's the fact that they were able to win basement. It was off a clutch play, but still, at least that's their one and only win. Now as they go back into the basement execute, they need to just put that thinking cap back on. They need to remember what the success felt like in round 2 and try to come back.
And I think what I want to piggyback off of there is it's the try. You have to give the effort here. And another thing, you talk about the decision making, to send them in, to push first into stock, then into blue. I think the problem there was a lack of a decision at all. I think that was one player saying, this is what I'm going to do, and the rest of the team is just like, okay. They don't support him. They don't drone him in. Nobody says, oh, hey, have you cleared it? Do you need intel? Do you need me to check that for you? Do you want me to come in from garage and hold your bottom blue, or, try to support you from the west main door? There is no communication, and it was Overture's team play that led them to a 7-1 on Chalet, but it's gone on Clubhouse, and that's what hurts me here.
No, I don't want to beat a dead horse more than it needs to. I just will say one more thing. It's called an endgame leader for a reason. It's not strat caller. It's called a leader. You have to lead your troops. It's not always about saying, oh, I have this great strategy. Let's just do strategy. No, you have to lead. You have to be mature. And sometimes, we think about games as just being avenues for escape, avenues of, pleasure. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to play it competitively, you have to approach it from that mature, competitive mindset. Hatch is starting to be opened up. You might say, hey, why is that thermite charge placed on the floor? It was placed there because the hatch is cated and electrified. The only option you have is to try to place it on the floor. Unfortunately, it was either placed too far away or shot, and it seemed to be shot judging by the lack of black shrapnel and charring around what could be the explosion. Now it's forcing Mitch to rotate on over, use one of those frag grenades to try to deal with the K-Claw. The first one will miss. If the second one doesn't fall through the cracks, it's going to be purely wasted utility. Eventually, it's being dealt with, but Hawks having one more thermite charge left. If it loses its life, it's going to be all in vain.
Well, finally, a shred of hope as Mitchard will shut down Badger, and the impact of that is, of course, the Alda off the board, but also, with the Maestro taken down, it allows the hatch to open up, as the Italian operator did have one remaining impact grenade, but it seems maybe caught in the process of throwing it and not having his gun at the ready was Badger's ultimate undoing. An advantage here for Overture in a very pivotal round. Benjury will toss a nade deep, but Jinji is well in time to rotate off and away from it. David is looking like he's thinking about maybe conceding control of dirt. As you can see, nobody actively in dirt, whether droning it or boots on the ground. Jinji, quite a shot up through the hatch here. 17 seconds to go. Sinnoh will find one in Vim. There's another one. That's exactly what they need. Smoke is trapped. He's stuck. And Jinji, he's still hiding here. He finds one. He gets the Iana. Hawks is the cover here from long 90. Then will move through. The smoke has nowhere to go, but he gets the down. It's a 1v1, but Hawks shuts it all down. And in Overture, they get round number 6. It was pivotal. It was needed. Count on the Fragmite.
When you need him the most, he'll drone you on in. When you need a wall opened up, he'll blow it up for you. And when he needs to evolve into a head-clicking monster, Fragmite and Hawks enters in the server. He'll end up putting his team at a 4-2 split. And honestly, traditional norms say Clubhouse 4-2 splits on attack are exactly where they want to be. So, what's going to take place now for Overture? They're going to have to write their own history as they move into their basement defense. But honestly, I was happy to see Overture with a confident execute on their final attack into the basement. They played as a coordinated team. They pushed together. They held angles. And even that 1v3 that was almost thrown away, at least Hawks was able there to shut it on down. I think that mental has been restored for Overture, and they're now going to try their best, propelling themselves forward into their new defensive stint.
And you practically read my mind. That was almost exactly what I was going to say. The call was made, Overture played as a team, and they had cover for the plan. The Zofia wasn't off, watching blue from church or sitting in some random corner up on the hatch. She was guarding the planter, and she made the swing to ultimately delay that enough and put her teammate in a favorable enough position where there was sort of a necessity for the smoke to push through. One thing as well, I don't really want to head down the line of, this being a tale of expectations and, Overture, the 2-4 is, the importance of that is they meet where they need to be. I think it's the room that they have to recover this here. VALORS are on the attack. It's a little bit more difficult for them, and depending on how Overture play, especially with the Chalet attacks in mind. They didn't look good for VALORS, and I think Overture kind of can ride off of that a little bit of that momentum that's still maybe there. This is recoverable, but not with a play like that. Fendry, he swings wide, and Mitchard goes down as well, but maybe a trade has been earned. Jinji has gone down the position. I'm not sure exactly where, but the Legion mute gone early. That's a valuable set of impacts and also such a crucial nitro. But luckily for Overture, they have really doubled down on the explosive util in this one.
The SSG Rome, though, has been dismantled. Now, you can still have those nitro cells be good options to return back to your bomb site or be used in a vertical manner over on the kitchen side. Our first round of nitro cells will not find its targets, but Valor knows that somewhere near that basement is lurking trouble. Vim, he hears a sledgehammer be swung. Gingy will be felled. No drones whatsoever by Valors. We've seen them make these mistakes before. It's an SSG Rome. What do you expect them to be? On the basement? Absolutely not. They're going to be everywhere on this map, trying to hold as many positions as possible, trying to capitalize on mistakes, and a mistake was made. We equalize in this lobby, but since the attackers went up against a derivative of the SSG Rome, practically all the hatches have already been opened up for their convenience. So they just need to open up that kitchen hatch, and that isn't necessary for their success.
Well, the gunpowder is a little bit lopsided towards Valors. Of course, you still have the Vigil K1A, and Sino has armed himself with the Commando, deciding over the Roni. But it'll actually be probably the weakest gun amongst them all that finds David and makes such an instrumental push. Great pick there. The Maverick is in the side, and it's all left up to them. As Valors turn the tide, lost some momentum with the kill by the Cade, and beamed only a sliver, a tiny millimeter of an angle. But he spots the rotation, and he lands the shot. That's going to put Valors up at 5-2, breaking what might have potentially been there an Overture Gaming 2-round streak, and a bit of momentum that could have been earned off the back of it. Now Valor's only 2 rounds away from being the champion here.
The thing that I have problems with is when a roster says, oh, I saw a professional team pioneer this strategy and create this strategy, so I'm going to create my own iteration of it. And why I have a problem with that idea is because you have to realize, why did that Pro League team create that strategy? That SSG Rome and then the derivatives of it were designed to waste time, not to take gunfights and not to get kills. Kills is a byproduct of the Rome, particularly if a rush is selected. So if you're Overture selecting some sort of offsite pressure, a large offsite pressure in a basement defense, you have to realize where you're rotating, what hatches are available for you to return back to your bomb site, and crucially, how many drones can you remove before Valors actually takes control of the room that you're playing in. And hopefully, for your sake, if you're a roamer, you remove practically 50% or more of those drones. So at a certain point, the attackers are forced to face check that final execute into the basement. But Overture, they themselves elected aggression off the bat. They took gunfights from the get-go, and they lost control because of that.
Well, quickly, I just wanted to mention, maybe for those of you who are just joining us, or as we've been talking about for a long time at this broadcast, some of you who might be new to Siege, if you're wondering why, me and Chief are speaking in such harsh tones and are so excited, well, this is a best of 3. We've already had 2 maps transpire, and that means this is the last map here on the German map of Clubhouse. If Valors win the next 2 rounds, it's over, and they are crowned the champions. But if Overture can start to get a little bit more towards their court, they might be able to kind of get in front of Valors and halt their momentum, because they are just speeding forward here at this moment, and there has been very little in the way of stopping them. Hixer will pre-fire towards the stairs. He spots the Cade. Will it be enough to get the pick? It seems not so much. Hawks will double back and sends a Nitro up, but fortunately there, the ceiling of the top main area is concrete, and you're not going to get much damage through it.
Still a dangerous position all around. There's sharks in this lobby, and they're hunting for free kills. Now, Overture, they actually have expanded their bomb site to the entire map, and Sino is lurking from below. Now, he doesn't have really any utilities, at least from a frag grenade standpoint or a nitrostell standpoint, but what he does have are impact grenades. Why that's crucial is if you place any hard breaching on this construction wall, it will be removed for free, and Beam is going to fall off the board. He was able to hold that flank, and his death wasn't purely in vain. He is able to get that refrag, and the construction wall is now opened up by David. He can hear one sitting CQC close quarters against that wall. Very similar scenario to where Badger was all those rounds ago, but Vim will not have that same success. He immediately falls. Puck spots one standing up, removes that player outright, and now VALORS is forced to execute on this bomb site with a disadvantage, and they don't have a lot of utility to move forward.
And the utility is really low. The Claymore doesn't even matter at this point for David. There's no smokes, there's no flashbangs, there's no frag grenades, there's nothing left here. It's one Selma for David for what that counts, and so it's going to be up to the guns. They've got on board, and Hicks is going to use his. Hawks and Mitchard both mowed down, and Fendry is forced to make a play, but look at that! Hicks are way up high! He swings the corner, and that could be it, but David will bounce off. VALORS one more round, and it's all wrapped up.
David's game sense there was perfect. He realized as soon as Hickser had fallen, his only option was to take the gunfight. If he continued on planting, it would have been just a free avenue for him to die. And he knew that because he had real-time information, not only from the call from Hickser, but he could also trace back where those white tracers were. It seems like VALORS, they struggled on map 2. Chalet just wasn't their map. It didn't allow them to shine and show their strengths. One of their strengths that is definitely be showing here in Clubhouse is the fact that Hickser, Gingy, Badger, and Beamed all absolutely click heads. I mean, they're looking so good. And then you include David into the mix, who is practically top fragging on primary support. I mean, it's a storyline, to say the least. VALORS is looking like the dominant roster. They put themselves onto match point, and Overture. They need to stop the tailspin.
We'd just like to quickly say a word before we step onto what might be the final round here in the grand finale, and that's got to be about Ncorp, one of the sponsors that allows TGS to bring these events to your screen. If you want a fast and easy way to recycle that energy drink, can of pop, or juice box you might have finished refueling on through the course of this best of 3 with Return It Express. There's no sorting, no lineups, no handling cash, and refunds are deposited straight to your online account. You can just drop off your empties at an express depot near you and go. Signing up is easy as well. Just head to returnit.ca/express to give your empties a second life. But let's start off in this round. Number 9. Moving forward, Sano's got eyes on a potential aggressive peek. Ready for the quick peek just at the other side of the master door, but does not get the kill, but a fair portion of damage dealt to the Ash player Hickser. Just going to, in turn, kind of slow down VALORS and force the call to be made. It's got to be a little bit better droned out.
Still being addressed, finished, and confirmed. Beam, the spearhead of VALORS, is off the board. 2 impact grenades and 2 stun grenades instantaneously removed. I'm not even sure where he died from. He's been playing aggressively over by the east side of the map, and it seems like he just got slammed for free. Even Mitchard is perplexed that that just transpired. Incredible shot for whatever just happened there, and honestly, a good position to be in for Overture. They still need to hold their fort down. Even if they're able to win this round, they still have 3 more to go before you even enter into that overtime mark. On the side of VALORS, though, there's so much utility in their way, whether or not it's just direct gun barrels or if it's all those Malusi wublubs. They're starting to fall one by one. Vim almost gets finished off by a nitrocell from his teammate, but thankfully it landed on the other side of the wall and didn't propagate around the corner.
Well, the death of the Zofia is going to make the clearing of these Banshees a bit more difficult, and Gingy perhaps not expecting such an aggressive swing by Mitchard, who will pump him full of buckshot. That kill Badger now downed and out on the balcony, but perhaps Fendry does not know. Of course, no points on here in this competitive environment. Hixer will jump off. I think he's probably going to go rotate, res his teammate back up and into the fight. You got to be real careful about how you do this, though, because you know the angle could always be here. Hixer is going to linger a few seconds at the breach before maybe eventually rotating, but Badger's time left could be low. Hixer will make the team play and get his mate, Badger, back up and into the fight. 2-on-3, Mitchard has just used his final canister. Fendry has 2 magnets left in pocket and plenty still to go. He's also got bullets in the magazine! Overture, yet one more round, delaying championship point and fighting onwards. Really smart heads-up play. The rotate, he knew the Banshee was still up. The magnets were still up. He had safe harbor in rafters.
CCTV will be a confirmed victory. However, we will not see that bomb site for another 3 rounds. That's going to force Overture to win downstairs in the basement and then win in the tertiary bomb site of Gym. And we've seen basement be quite a banana of a map or a bomb site where we just have no idea what to predict. We've seen attackers just go for Hail Mary rushes. We've also seen them go for the methodical clear. But the last time we were in basement, the aggressive hold upstairs throughout the entire map was just so difficult, something they couldn't address. Now, Overture, they're electing to go away from those aggressive operators. No Mozzie to be seen whatsoever. It's just going to be a traditional anchored down bunker on this basement. But honestly, if you're going to go for a bunker strategy, there's still ways of wasting time that isn't just sitting on that bomb site, particularly working a couple of those defenders up the stairwells, snipe away a drone or 2, and then fall back. That way, you have at least removed 40% of the attacker drone economy. So when it comes down to them starting to actually confirm where the defenders are playing in the bomb site, you can start to remove even more of those drones.
Well, here we go. Round continues to step forward, and the momentum of Overture. They've narrowed down the lead here. 3 rounds, especially for a clubhouse defense. I think the question we need to all be asking ourselves is, how is Overture going to structure their defenses to react to Valor's momentum that they've been building up here so far? They managed to get the win playing CCTV in cash. Now, how can they change the church site that they have been a little bit worse on?
Teammates communicating about themselves, the bomb side, the dip potato chip language being confirmed. Not sure exactly what's being relayed as I'm not fluid in it, but what could be presumed is Overture realizes that, hey, we're hanging out on the bomb site while Valors are clearing out the entire map step by step, making sure nothing odd is going on. Gingy is going to have a single swing of that sledgehammer into Logi. The idea behind that is, well, maybe there might be some soft utility in that kitchen, or maybe there's a defender playing a hyper-aggressive position. At least now we'll have that vertical angle on them to address that. There's also another angle behind that. You could have something very high, look straight down into that bomb site, something that Overture might not be prepared for.
Well, they are certainly ready to deal with the hatches. The Cade is making a bit of a reaction. He's pissed. He wants this hatch to stay closed at all costs. And is ready at the angle, but the drone is there, and so that'll make Sinnoh aware that this play, holding close moto door, is a bit known. But the Jaeger does not rotate back. Maybe that was a bit of a fake. Have the Cade go backwards and, soak up the drones and check the corner. See more drones go through, but they're shot again. I think that's definitely what's going on here. Will the Jaeger move? No. In fact, he actually manages to avoid the damage, but there was a drone under the table, and that's the call. That's the rotate hit for them. Gives up the corner. So now Badger is clear to drop. Frag grenade will be tossed to the back, but an ADS, a wide swing from Sinnoh, will fail. Fendry has the trade, but in the meanwhile, Badger actually gets the pick. Knife for Mitchard. Confirms the downed player at Blue Hall. 35 seconds to go. The Alda begins to sing, but Hixer answers back in immediate fashion. Vim goes uncleared in the corner. but Hixer just got the down. At the long haul, it's all done for Hixer, the Ash main, the power player. And we have ourselves a new champion, the second winner here in 2021. VALORS make it happen, 7-3.
That is absolutely why teams in this tournament elected to remove Ash away from Hixer, because he just clicks heads. It wasn't just a Hixer show. Every single player on that VALORS roster did their job. There is only a 3-kill difference from the top end of the stick to the bottom end of the VALORS offense and defense. An incredible storyline for them. And even in that 1v2 scenario, Hixer never shook. He knew exactly what to do. He was at game sense monster to finish it up for VALORS. A perfect showing. And honestly, that attack started to look a little bit rough for them. It was almost like their players just fell one by one. It was looking like we'd see more rounds in this tournament, but Hixer said absolutely not.
Nope, made sure that he was armed and ready and ended the map before the decider would see, overtime or very less the end of regulation. An impressive performance across the board. So many exciting moments, whether it was to benefit the inevitable champions or building up to that story of the potential comeback on Asunder. But with that, we now have our new victor, the second of 2021, as I mentioned, and they will be walking home with the lion's share of that $500 CAD total prize pool. Big congratulations to them. Unfortunate that we did not get to see the loser bracket final and, the potential fight to stay alive and avoid elimination in what that would have been for the lower round. But overall, I think we got a really strong game and a lot of clips, a lot of moments to go back on.
I couldn't agree more. Again, that's what we come here to do. All of these weekend tournaments, hopefully more to come, where we get to show the best of the amateur scene, who is coming up and who is growing as players. But Reese, I think that means our day is just about done, and it's been an incredible one to say the least.
No, it really has. And of course, one more time, huge thanks to all of the people working behind the scenes. The production team at TGS has been incredible, very accommodating, and you've got to give some love to them for what has been a flawless stream so far. If you'd like to learn more about the gaming stadium and what they have to offer, as well as maybe spot out a few opportunities to register in some of their upcoming events, you can go to their Twitter feed primarily, where you'll have all of the real-time updates and some of the banger tweets, of course, that we've been putting out throughout the event and the work that we've done there. But also check out their website, tgs.gg, where you can see how to register for some of the upcoming events and, of course, learn more. Maybe R6 coming back again, but as well, that's been all from us. Once more, huge thanks to Ncorp, to Kanto Living, and as well Monster Cat Gold, who allowed us to push this event forward and make another fun weekend night of Siege. But that's all from us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I've been Sticula, my co-caster Chi, signing off.